Across the vast expanse of our planet lie whispers of forgotten worlds, fragments of civilizations that challenge everything we think we know about human history. Beneath layers of sand, ice, and stone, archaeologists have unearthed objects that simply should not exist. Intricate artifacts, impossible constructions, and symbols carved by hands that defy explanation. How did a perfectly crafted metal sphere end up sealed inside ancient rock millions of years old? Who built the structures that align flawlessly with the stars, long before telescopes or written records? And why do so many cultures, separated by oceans and millennia, share the same haunting symbols and myths? These discoveries don't just rewrite textbooks. They unravel reality itself. Each one is a riddle left behind, a silent message from the deep past, daring us to decode it. So sit back, relax, and open your mind. We're about to journey into the shadowy depths of history, where the line between fact and mystery begins to blur. Welcome to the world of bizarre and unexplained archaeological discoveries. The sun hangs low over the undulating white dunes of New Mexico, casting long, ghostly shadows across a landscape that seems almost alien in its brilliance. White sands, a vast sea of glistening gypsum, stretches endlessly in every direction, its ridges and valleys carved by wind and time into ever-shifting patterns. To the casual observer, it is a place of stark beauty, endless, serene, and silent. But beneath the pristine surface lies something far older, far stranger, a hidden archive of life that walked this land thousands of years before modern humans would call it home. Here, in these silent sands, lie the fossilized footprints of ancient beings. Trails etched into soft mud, later hardened into stone, offer an extraordinary window into the past. Scientists have meticulously documented tracks that stretch for miles, impressions of toes and heels frozen in time, and even the occasional stride so large it hints at a creature that walked with a deliberate, measured gait. Some prints are unmistakably human, bearing the hallmarks of Homo sapiens. Others are more puzzling, feet that appear elongated, or strides that seem far too wide for a human body, as if recording the passage of something not fully understood. Dating these tracks has been an exercise in patience and precision. Layers of sediment, pollen analysis, and radiocarbon testing place many of them between 21,000 and 23,000 years ago. If these dates are accurate, they suggest a presence long before previously accepted timelines for humans in North America. This is what gives the White Sands footprints their quiet, almost unsettling power. They are a reminder that the history of this continent may be far more complicated than textbooks suggest. Walk along the preserved trails, and the mind cannot help but wander. How did these people live? What challenges did they face in a world dominated by megafauna, where mammoths and giant sloths roamed alongside early hunters? The impressions are more than mere marks. They are gestures across millennia, a record of motion and intention frozen in stone. The way some prints follow alongside others suggests companionship, a story of movement, perhaps even a journey, though the exact purpose is lost to time. But the mystery does not end with human footprints. Interspersed among them are tracks that defy easy explanation. Some are unusually large, wider than a human foot, yet possessing clear arches and a form that suggests a bipedal gait. Others appear in patterns that raise questions about behavior, circular paths that hint at ritualistic movement, parallel trails that suggest someone, or something, was pacing, observing, or waiting. Skeptics argue erosion and distortion can create illusions, that over thousands of years, mud shrinks, shifts, and molds impressions into unfamiliar forms. And yet, Even the most cautious interpretations admit that some of these anomalies remain deeply puzzling. Across the dunes, there are tracks that vanish abruptly at the edge of hardened sediment, as if the creature responsible simply lifted off the ground or vanished into thin air. Could these be misreads of natural processes, or is there something about the conditions of white sands that captured these movements in an unusually precise way? The debate continues, with scientists, historians, and independent researchers examining each footprint under microscopes, in 3D scans, and through sophisticated modeling, searching for answers that might never come. Beyond the footprints themselves, the site raises broader questions about the people, or beings, who left them. Were they part of a small, isolated group adapting to harsh environmental conditions, or part of a larger yet undocumented migration across the Americas? The lack of accompanying artifacts, tools, or settlements in direct association with some of the trails adds another layer of enigma. It is as if these footprints were momentary events, brief glances into lives otherwise unrecorded, lost to the shifting sands of time. Speculation has, inevitably, wandered beyond the strictly scientific. Some researchers propose that anomalous tracks might indicate unknown species, while others point to environmental factors that could have exaggerated certain impressions. Still, even the most measured interpretations cannot fully explain why white sands preserves these moments in such remarkable clarity. Each footprint, each step, seems to ask the same question: who was here, and what were they doing? The white sands tracks, when viewed in sequence, form patterns that almost resemble a silent choreography. In some sections, prints suggest hurried motion, a fleeing presence, while elsewhere they unfold like a contemplative stroll, deliberate and unhurried. The variations evoke emotion, empathy, wonder, and sometimes an uncanny unease. These are not just marks in mud. They are frozen expressions of movement, subtle and profound reminders of lives lived long before our own. And yet, for all the data, analysis, and technological insight, the mystery persists. Each step forward seems to reveal new questions rather than answers. Are there more footprints buried beneath the ever-shifting dunes, waiting for time and chance to uncover them? Could these tracks point toward forgotten migrations, lost cultures, or species that have vanished without a trace? Or are they simply the ordinary lives of ordinary people, captured with such rare clarity that they appear extraordinary to us now? As the sun dips below the horizon and shadows lengthen across the desert, the white sands trails invite contemplation. They remind us that the past is not a static record, but a living puzzle, holding stories that may never fully reveal themselves. The sands shift, footprints fade, yet the imprint of mystery remains. A silent whisper from a time we can only imagine, an open question etched into the earth itself. As the echoes of ancient footsteps fade from the windswept sands of New Mexico, our journey takes us east, over rivers and plains, to a place where human ambition took a different shape, rising not from the footprints of travelers, but from the deliberate, monumental shaping of the earth itself. Nestled in the rolling lowlands of northeastern Louisiana, Poverty Point stands as a testament to ingenuity and mystery, a vast complex of concentric earthen ridges and mounds that has puzzled archaeologists for decades. From above, the site appears almost geometric, a series of 6 arcs radiating outward in perfect sweeping curves, each ridge precisely leveled and spaced, enclosing what may have been homes, communal spaces, or ritual grounds. It is an awe-inspiring sight, even today, when the surrounding landscape has reclaimed much of its ancient vegetation. Constructed around 1700 BCE, Poverty Point is far older than the civilizations most commonly associated with monumental architecture in North America. Unlike the stone pyramids of Mesoamerica or the timbered villages of later Mississippian cultures, this site was sculpted entirely from earth, millions of cubic feet of clay, gravel, and soil moved by human hands without the aid of metal tools or draft animals. The sheer scale of the project is staggering. Some of the ridges rise more than 8 feet above the floodplain, stretching for more than a mile in total circumference. How did a society that left no written record or large-scale artifacts coordinate such an enormous construction effort? What motivated them to transform the flat Louisiana landscape into a geometric marvel that persists, defiant of centuries, floods, and erosion? The purpose of Poverty Point remains a source of speculation. Archaeologists have uncovered remnants of hearths, stone tools, and thousands of small, carefully crafted clay objects, some of which were traded across distances exceeding 500 miles. These finds suggest that the site functioned as a hub of social, economic, and possibly ceremonial activity. Yet much about the site is puzzling. Why choose this location on a relatively low, flood-prone plain? Why the precision of the concentric arcs, which some researchers suggest may encode astronomical or cosmological knowledge? Certain alignments hint at the solstices or the rising of particular celestial bodies, though the evidence is tantalizing and incomplete, leaving room for debate about whether these were intentional or coincidental. The construction techniques themselves remain enigmatic. Without metal tools, the builders moved immense quantities of earth using baskets and human labor alone. Soil was layered and compacted in ways that have allowed these ridges to endure millennia of flooding. In a world where so much early architecture has been lost to time, Poverty Point endures, a resilient and silent witness. Yet the logic behind its layout continues to provoke wonder. Were the ridges residential areas, ceremonial pathways, or symbolic boundaries? And what does the overall design reveal about the society that envisioned and executed it, a people we can only partially reconstruct through fragments of their material culture? Beyond the practical questions, the site carries an aura of mystery. Some researchers propose that the geometric precision reflects a sophisticated understanding of mathematics or surveying, a knowledge that challenges conventional assumptions about prehistoric North America. Others speculate on the social structures necessary to organize and sustain such a project. A society capable of this feat would require leadership, cooperation, and planning on a scale previously unimagined for this period. Yet, we have no written records, no hierarchy carved in stone, no detailed explanations left behind. Only the earth itself, molded and contoured, provides clues, and it is a silent and cryptic witness. Visitors today can trace the curves of the ridges and imagine the rhythm of ancient life. Perhaps families walked these arcs daily, children playing along the leveled paths, traders passing through with exotic stones and shells, priests or shamans guiding rituals under the rising sun. In the gaps between the ridges, pits, and depressions hint at daily activities or gatherings, while larger earthen mounds rise at the periphery, possibly marking ceremonial centers or sites of memory. There is a palpable sense that Poverty Point was more than a settlement. It was a statement, a deliberate shaping of both land and society, yet to what end remains elusive. Speculation extends even further. Some fringe interpretations have suggested that the site could reflect connections to distant cultures, possibly tracing trade networks or ideas that spanned the continent, though evidence for such links remains sparse and circumstantial. The precision of the arcs, the endurance of the ridges, and the scope of construction have inspired theories ranging from advanced prehistoric engineering to ritual landscapes aligned with celestial movements. None of these explanations can fully account for the magnitude of human effort or the cultural sophistication implied. And yet, for all its unanswered questions, Poverty Point continues to speak across the centuries. It reminds us that human creativity and determination have always found ways to leave marks on the world, often in forms we can scarcely predict. The arcs carved into the Louisiana landscape are not merely ruins. They are messages encoded in earth, expressions of knowledge, purpose, and perhaps even wonder. As the wind sweeps across the ridges today, one can almost imagine the echoes of laborers' footsteps, the conversations of those who lived and worked here, or the ceremonies performed under the endless sky. As we move from the individual footprints frozen in white sands to the grand geometric vision of Poverty Point, a question lingers. What drives a society to leave such enduring traces of its existence? Are these constructions practical, spiritual, or symbolic, or perhaps some combination we cannot yet understand? And if Poverty Point can endure for over 3,000 years, what other landscapes lie hidden, shaped by hands and minds long vanished, waiting silently for us to uncover them? The earth keeps its secrets, and in these concentric arcs, the whispers of a long-lost world invite us to listen, to wonder, and to continue exploring. From the geometric ridges of Poverty Point, our journey carries us far south across continents and oceans to the rugged, mist-laden highlands of Peru. Here, amidst the Andean peaks that pierce the sky with jagged intensity, lies a structure that evokes both awe and perplexity: the Temple of the Moon. Nestled on the northern slopes of Huayna Picchu, overlooking the sprawling citadel of Machu Picchu, this ancient site is often overshadowed by its more famous neighbor. Yet for those who approach its stone terraces, carved niches, and intricately chiseled walls, the Temple of the Moon reveals an equally compelling story, one steeped in ritual, symbolism, and unanswered questions. The temple itself is carved directly into the living rock, a testament to the skill and vision of the builders. Massive stone blocks interlock with meticulous precision, their surfaces polished and shaped in ways that have withstood centuries of seismic activity and heavy rains. Unlike the terraced agricultural zones of Machu Picchu or its residential quarters, the Temple of the Moon is more enigmatic, appearing to serve a primarily ceremonial purpose. Inside its walls, niches and cavities suggest offerings or sacred rituals, while a prominent cave chamber extends into the mountain itself, dark and cool, echoing with the whispers of history. What practices unfolded here? What beliefs were encoded in the angles, alignments, and carvings of this enigmatic place? Archaeologists generally agree that the Temple of the Moon was part of the Inca ceremonial landscape, intimately connected to the broader network of sacred sites throughout the Andes. Yet the structure's unusual layout, the precision of its stonework, and its dramatic integration with the natural contours of the mountain continue to provoke intrigue. Certain walls appear to align with the rising or setting of the sun during solstices, while some niches may correspond to lunar cycles or astronomical events. Could these alignments represent a sophisticated understanding of celestial patterns used for calendrical or ritual purposes? And if so, what knowledge guided the hands of these builders, and how was it transmitted across generations in an era without written records? The temple's cave chamber adds another layer of mystery. Descending into the narrow passages, one encounters carefully carved stone benches, alcoves, and channels whose purpose is not immediately clear. Some researchers suggest these spaces were used for meditation, ritual purification, or ceremonies involving offerings. Others speculate that the natural acoustics of the cave may have amplified chants, prayers, or music during sacred rites, transforming the chamber into a resonant vessel of spiritual experience. The very rock seems to hum with intent, as if the mountain itself were a partner in the rituals performed here, a living stage for human devotion. Evidence of human presence in the form of ceramic fragments, carved stone figurines, and traces of fire pits points to the temple's active use over centuries. Yet there is little to illuminate the identities of those who frequented the site. Were they priests, Shamans, pilgrims, or an elite group charged with guarding sacred knowledge? The lack of definitive records invites speculation. Did the temple serve a regional population, or was it reserved for select members of Inca society? The absence of extensive written documentation or codices leaves these questions tantalizingly unanswered. The design and construction techniques of the temple continue to draw attention. The stones are cut and fitted with astonishing accuracy, forming walls that neither mortar nor cement binds, yet remain impervious to earthquakes, a phenomenon repeated throughout Inca architecture. How did the builders achieve this precision, shaping rock so massive and irregular with such apparent ease? Some suggest advanced tools or unknown methods, though there is no direct evidence to support extraordinary claims. It is the quiet mastery of human ingenuity, coupled with the natural contours of the mountain, that gives the temple its enduring presence, inviting contemplation of both skill and purpose. Beyond the stonework, the temple's location itself raises questions. Perched high on Huayna Picchu, it offers commanding views of the Urubamba River Valley below and the surrounding Andean peaks. The choice of such a site seems deliberate, a statement of both spiritual and strategic significance. Did the builders intend to harmonize human construction with the rhythms of the mountain and sky? Were the vistas a component of ritual, observation, or both? The very positioning suggests a worldview that considered geography, astronomy, and spirituality as interwoven threads, each informing the other. Speculative interpretations have naturally emerged. Some propose that the Temple of the Moon was a lunar observatory designed to track the movement of the moon across the Andean sky. Others suggest connections to shamanic practices, where the cave chamber may have served as a portal for vision quests or ceremonial journeys into the spirit world. While such ideas remain conjectural, they underscore the depth of mystery that surrounds the site, highlighting the ways in which human intention, natural landscape, and cosmic observation intersect. Visitors to the temple today are struck by the sense of intimacy and scale. Unlike the expansive plazas of Machu Picchu, the Temple of the Moon feels enclosed, secretive, as if it were intended to shelter the sacred and shield it from casual view. Walking among its terraces, one can almost hear the echoes of chants and footsteps that have long since vanished, feel the weight of devotion etched into the stone. The very air seems charged with questions. Why here, in this precise configuration? What beliefs guided the shaping of the rock? And what truths, lost to time, remain encoded in the angles, chambers, and carvings of this ancient sanctuary? As we leave the ordered arcs of Poverty Point behind and step into the carved stone sanctuaries of the Andes, a pattern emerges across these disparate sites. Across continents and millennia, human beings have sought to mark the land, to encode meaning into stone, soil, and space. Whether through monumental earthworks or intricate stone chambers, these constructions reveal ingenuity, intent, and reverence. But they also leave profound mysteries. What knowledge was lost with the passage of centuries? What purposes remain hidden, and how much of the human experience was recorded only in silence and gesture, never to be fully deciphered? The Temple of the Moon endures as a quiet enigma, a place where stone and mountain converge, inviting reflection on the ingenuity, spirituality, and unanswered questions of a culture long gone. It is a reminder that even in a world that has been studied extensively, there remain sites that defy full understanding, whose secrets persist beneath the Andean sky, waiting for those who seek to listen and wonder. From the soaring heights of the Andes and the shadowed chambers of the Temple of the Moon, our journey now returns to the heart of North America, where another enigma emerges, not from mountains or earthworks, but from the soil itself. In 1860, near the town of Newark, Ohio, workers digging into the mounds of the Hopewell culture unearthed a series of objects that would ignite controversy and speculation for generations: the Newark Holy Stones. These small, polished artifacts, carved from black slate and inscribed with Hebrew characters, seemed utterly out of place among the otherwise familiar pottery, tools, and ornaments of the mound-building societies. The most famous of these discoveries, the Keystone and the Decalogue Stone, appear to carry a direct connection to ancient Israel. One bears a detailed engraving of the Ten Commandments, accompanied by intricate symbolic motifs. Their presence in Ohio, thousands of miles from the lands of the Old Testament, raises profound and unsettling questions. How could Hebrew inscriptions have found their way into North American burial mounds? Were these items the result of transatlantic contact long before Columbus? Or do they reflect something altogether different, perhaps even the imagination and ambitions of those who lived in the 19th century? The historical context of the discovery adds another layer of complexity. Newark in the mid-1800s was a town grappling with fascination for ancient history, biblical narratives, and burgeoning archaeological curiosity. The Hopewell Mounds, already recognized for their impressive construction and enigmatic purpose, were fertile ground for both scholarly study and imaginative speculation. When the stones appeared, carefully inscribed and seemingly deliberate in their placement, they challenged conventional interpretations of pre-Columbian North America. Could the Hopewell people themselves have carved these stones? Mainstream archaeology is skeptical, noting that there is no independent evidence of Old World scripts in North America before European contact. Yet the stones remain, raising persistent questions about context, intent, and authenticity. The inscriptions themselves are compelling and mysterious. Written in a form of Hebrew that some experts consider accurate for the period, the text corresponds to sacred writings familiar in Judaic tradition. Some see this as evidence of a lost chapter in human migration, a narrative in which peoples from distant lands arrived, leaving a faint but undeniable trace in the American heartland. Others argue that the stones were a deliberate hoax, perhaps intended to legitimize contemporary claims about the ancient origins of biblical peoples in the New World. Yet, even if one accepts the possibility of fabrication, the craftsmanship of the stones is striking. The engravings are precise, the lettering consistent, and the symmetry of the symbols suggests careful planning rather than casual imitation. Adding to the enigma is the way the stones were discovered. Unlike most Hopewell artifacts, which are utilitarian or decorative, the Newark holy stones were placed deliberately within burial contexts. The Decalogue stone was found within a carefully constructed crypt, surrounded by small ceremonial objects, suggesting a ritualistic purpose. If authentic, why would Hebrew inscriptions appear in such a setting? Were they intended as sacred markers, as gifts, or as a form of encoded message? The answers remain elusive, as the broader archaeological record of the Hopewell culture offers no parallel examples of Old World scripts. Over the years, debate has oscillated between intrigue and skepticism. Scholars who defend authenticity emphasize the stone's craftsmanship and the improbability of perfect hoaxes emerging in isolation. Critics highlight historical motives for forgery, noting that the mid-19th century was a period rife with pseudo-historical claims, particularly in North America, where curiosity about ancient civilizations often intersected with religious imagination. Complicating matters further, the stone's provenance is partially documented but still leaves gaps. Reports of their discovery rely on accounts from workers and local observers, many of whom may have had reasons, conscious or unconscious, to embellish or misinterpret what they found. The Newark holy stones also evoke deeper questions about human history and the transmission of knowledge. Even setting aside debates over authenticity, the very idea that these objects could exist in Ohio prompts reflection on migration, trade, and the ways humans interact with sacred symbols. Could there have been contacts lost to history, migrations unrecorded, or cultural intersections that we can only glimpse through tantalizing fragments? Or do the stones, in their enigmatic form, serve primarily as mirrors, reflecting our own desire to connect disparate cultures, to find continuity across vast distances and times? Visitors to the Hopewell Mounds today, standing in the shadow of these earthen monuments, often find themselves confronting the paradox of the Newark holy stones. Here is a culture celebrated for its geometric precision, elaborate burials, and cosmological awareness, yet now entwined with objects that seem to originate elsewhere, in another continent, another tradition. The juxtaposition is disorienting. Mound-building peoples with advanced ceremonial knowledge and the mysterious intrusion of symbols whose story is, at best, partially told. The soil preserves evidence, but it cannot offer interpretation. The past remains silent, leaving us to reconstruct possibilities from fragments alone. Speculative theories continue to circulate. Some suggest that the stones hint at pre-Columbian transoceanic contact, a notion that would dramatically rewrite accepted timelines. Others consider the possibility of symbolic experimentation within the Hopewell culture itself, an exploration of foreign motifs absorbed through oral stories or indirect trade networks, transformed into new, locally meaningful contexts. Each theory, however, encounters challenges, for there is no definitive proof to confirm or refute it entirely. The Newark holy stones exist in a liminal space between evidence and mystery, tangible yet elusive, demanding curiosity without offering closure. As we step back from the shadows of the Andean temples and the geometric arcs of Poverty Point, the Newark holy stones remind us that mystery can emerge not only in monumental constructions, but also in small, deceptively simple objects. They ask us to question the limits of our understanding, to consider the improbable, and to acknowledge that history may harbor surprises that elude our conventional frameworks. Whether authentic relics, sophisticated hoaxes, or something in between, these stones stand as silent witnesses, inviting reflection on migration, belief, and the enigmatic ways humans leave their mark on the world. And so, the puzzle remains. What is the true origin of the Newark holy stones? What did they signify to those who placed them, and what story do they carry across the centuries to our eyes today? Like footprints in New Mexico or mounds in Louisiana, these stones speak in fragments, and their message, if it exists, remains just out of reach, waiting for patient minds to listen, to wonder, and perhaps to imagine what might still be hidden beneath the earth. From the engraved stones of Ohio, where questions of origin and meaning lingered, our journey now shifts to the rolling plains and river valleys of Bronze Age Europe, a world of gilded craftsmanship, ritual symbolism, and objects that defy simple explanation. Among these, few discoveries are as enigmatic or visually striking as the so-called golden hats, towering conical artifacts crafted entirely from thin sheets of beaten gold. Found scattered across Central Europe, in Germany, Switzerland, and France, these remarkable objects stand as silent witnesses to a civilization that flourished over 3,000 years ago, leaving behind traces both exquisite and cryptic. The golden hats are unlike any other artifacts from the period. Standing between half a meter and almost a meter tall, their surfaces shimmer with thousands of tiny embossed symbols, organized in precise, repeating patterns. The craftsmanship is extraordinary. Gold, hammered into incredibly thin sheets, was carefully shaped into a conical form, with intricate decoration applied using punches, stamps, and possibly rudimentary engraving tools. The level of detail suggests not only advanced metalworking skills, but also a profound understanding of geometry and design. How did artisans of the Bronze Age achieve such precision without modern tools? And what purpose could these extraordinary hats serve? Archaeologists have debated the function of these objects for decades. Some interpret them as ceremonial headpieces worn by priests or chieftains during sacred rites. Others propose that the symbols encoded calendrical or astronomical knowledge, transforming the hats into portable instruments for tracking lunar and solar cycles. Patterns of concentric circles, dots, and lines may correspond to days, months, or years, representing a sophisticated form of proto-mathematical observation. If this interpretation is accurate, the golden hats hint at a society deeply attuned to the rhythms of nature, capable of abstract thought and long-term planning, far beyond what might be assumed for the period. Yet much about these objects remains profoundly mysterious. Only a handful of golden hats have ever been found, and all were discovered far from the centers of Bronze Age settlement, often buried in isolated contexts. Why were these extraordinary objects placed where they were? Were they deliberately hidden, lost, or offered as votive deposits? And why have so few survived, despite the apparent importance suggested by their elaborate construction? The scarcity of examples only amplifies the sense of enigma, leaving more questions than answers. The iconography itself is open to interpretation. Rows of repeated symbols appear across each hat, organized into zones that some researchers believe represent cycles of the moon or sun. Certain combinations may correspond to agricultural calendars, suggesting that these artifacts were used to regulate planting, harvesting, or ritual observances tied to celestial events. Others propose that the symbols carried spiritual or magical significance, functioning as protective emblems or conveyors of sacred knowledge. Without written records to clarify intent, each pattern becomes a puzzle, a visual code whose meaning has been obscured by millennia. The very construction of the hats raises further intrigue. Each cone is made from a single sheet of gold, beaten and rolled without seams, a remarkable technical achievement even by modern standards. The thinness of the metal, so delicate it could tear under pressure, suggests that the objects were intended for ceremonial display rather than practical wear. Could the hats have been symbols of office or markers of social hierarchy, worn only on rare and solemn occasions? Or were they tools, sacred instruments used to align human activity with the movements of the heavens? The answers are speculative. Yet the evidence suggests a deliberate blending of art, science, and ritual. Some researchers have even considered more speculative possibilities. Could the hats represent a lost system of knowledge shared among distant communities of Bronze Age Europe? Do the symbols reflect observations passed down through generations, encoded in a visual language now forgotten? The sheer precision and consistency across multiple examples hint at a level of cultural sophistication that challenges assumptions about early European societies. Whether interpreted as astronomical devices, ceremonial regalia, or objects imbued with mystical significance, the golden hats continue to fascinate, precisely because they resist simple classification. The discovery context of the hats adds to their mystery. Unlike everyday artifacts, pottery, tools, or weapons, the golden hats were often found carefully buried, sometimes accompanied by other high-status items or within ceremonial enclosures. Their placement suggests intentionality, yet the rationale remains opaque. Were they offerings to deities, markers of sacred sites, or symbols of authority designed to be glimpsed by few and understood by fewer? Each scenario is plausible, yet none can be proven definitively. The hats are a language without a key, a message in gold whose full meaning has slipped beyond our reach. For modern observers, standing before these artifacts, whether in museum cases or archaeological records, the effect is profound. The golden hats shimmer with a quiet majesty, evoking distant hands, meticulous labor, and a worldview steeped in reverence for cosmic patterns. They connect the human desire to understand the heavens with the tangible skill of the artisan, merging science, art, and ritual into a single, enduring object. Yet even as we admire their beauty and ingenuity, we confront the same question that has haunted each of the sites we've explored: what was truly intended and what remains forever hidden from us. As we move from the engraved stones of Ohio to the gilded cones of Bronze Age Europe, a thread begins to emerge. Across continents, millennia, and cultures, human beings have sought to encode meaning through symbols, construction, and celestial alignment, leaving traces that challenge our understanding and ignite our curiosity. The golden hats are one such trace, a shimmering testament to knowledge, skill, and mystery, urging us to consider not only what we know, but also what remains unseen, unspoken, or perhaps deliberately concealed. And so, we are left with the enduring question: what knowledge, rituals, or beliefs do these golden hats truly represent? What secrets did they hold in the hands of those who crafted and wore them, and what has been lost to time? As with footprints in New Mexico, earthen arcs in Louisiana, sacred caves in Peru, and engraved stones in Ohio, the golden hats invite us to wonder, to reflect, and to imagine the hidden chapters of human history that still await discovery. From the gilded cones of Bronze Age Europe, where patterns of gold hinted at celestial knowledge and ritual significance, our journey now crosses oceans to the rugged heart of New Zealand's North Island. Nestled in the Kaimanawa Ranges, a remote stretch of volcanic peaks, dense forest, and sweeping valleys, lies a structure that has sparked both wonder and debate: the Kaimanawa Wall. At first glance, it appears deceptively ordinary, a roughly linear arrangement of massive stones, weathered by centuries of exposure. Yet, for those who study it closely, the wall presents anomalies that challenge conventional explanations, offering a quiet and persistent riddle carved into the landscape. The wall stretches across the mountainside, composed of andesite blocks so large and angular that moving them would have required remarkable effort. Some stones weigh several tons, and many appear to be meticulously cut, with flat faces and sharp angles that fit together with striking precision. The stones form a series of terraces and linear segments, creating the impression of deliberate design. Observers often note that the layout seems too systematic to be purely natural, yet there is no known historical record of human construction in this particular area. Who could have placed these stones, and for what purpose? Geologists and archaeologists have examined the site with careful attention. Mainstream explanations suggest that the wall is a natural formation, the product of jointed volcanic rock fractured by geological processes over millennia. Weathering, erosion, and tectonic activity could plausibly create the angular shapes and linear alignments observed. Yet the human eye struggles to reconcile the apparent order with randomness. Some blocks exhibit smooth, planar surfaces and nearly right-angled edges, and in places, the stones appear stacked or arranged in ways that suggest intent. Was this purely coincidental, or does nature mimic the hand of the human builder in ways that deceive perception? The location of the wall adds another layer of intrigue. Situated high in the Kaimanawa Ranges, far from ancient population centers, it seems a curious choice for construction. If human hands were involved, why place the wall in such an inaccessible spot? Some speculate it may have served as a boundary, a defensive structure, or even a ceremonial site. Could the builders have been using the wall as a marker for navigation, or as a stage for rituals aligned with the sun, the stars, or the surrounding landscape? Each possibility opens new questions, and yet the absence of artifacts or clear cultural context keeps certainty out of reach. Reports from explorers and enthusiasts describe the wall with both fascination and caution. Certain segments appear to form terraces, almost stair-like arrangements ascending the hillside, while other portions form seemingly straight lines that cut across the natural contours of the terrain. Some stones show evidence of shaping or intentional fracturing, with parallel grooves that might indicate tools or deliberate scoring. Others remain indistinguishable from natural outcrops. The effect is subtle but compelling. The wall occupies a liminal space between nature and human endeavor, challenging observers to discern where one ends and the other begins. Speculative theories have naturally emerged around the Kaimanawa wall. Some suggest that it is evidence of a forgotten civilization, a remnant of human activity lost to time and memory. Others propose that it may be an ancient astronomical alignment, akin to the European Golden Hats or the Temple of the Moon in Peru, intended to mark solstices, equinoxes, or other celestial events. More fringe interpretations even venture into the realm of prehistoric or mythic narratives, imagining lost peoples with advanced engineering knowledge inhabiting New Zealand long before Polynesian settlers arrived. While such ideas remain conjectural, they illustrate the power of the wall to provoke imagination and inquiry. Yet there is caution in interpretation. Geologists emphasize the natural processes that shape volcanic landscapes. Jointing, fracturing, and erosion can produce formations that resemble human construction, and the Kaimanawa wall sits within a region where such geological phenomena are common. Without definitive evidence of human modification, tools, carvings, or associated settlements, it is difficult to conclusively categorize the wall as man-made. And yet, for every skeptic, there remains a lingering sense that something is not fully explained, a subtle hint that the wall may hold stories beyond the reach of conventional archaeology. The surrounding environment reinforces the sense of mystery. Mist often drifts through the ranges, clinging to jagged peaks and casting long shadows across the wall. The air carries the sound of distant streams, wind through tussock grass, and the occasional cry of native birds. In this remote setting, the wall feels suspended in time, an enigmatic presence in a landscape largely untouched by modern development. Walking along the terraces or peering at the angular blocks, it is easy to imagine hands lifting stones, voices echoing in ritual, or a society whose traces have been erased by centuries of isolation and natural change. As we contemplate the Kaimanawa wall, a pattern emerges across the diverse sites we have explored, from the footprints frozen in New Mexico to the ceremonial ridges of Poverty Point, the caves of Peru, the engraved stones of Ohio, and the gilded hats of Bronze Age Europe. Human ingenuity repeatedly intersects with mystery. These places remind us that history is not a linear record of events alone. It is also an archive of intention, symbol, and unanswered questions. The Kaimanawa wall, whether shaped by nature, by human hands, or by some combination of both, occupies that liminal space where evidence and imagination meet. Ultimately, the wall confronts us with an enduring question. What is the origin and purpose of these massive stones arranged in the heart of the Kaimanawa Ranges? Were they constructed by unknown builders for reasons now lost to memory? Or are they the remarkable product of geological forces shaped over eons? The evidence invites us to look closer, to consider both natural processes and human creativity, and to accept that some mysteries may never be fully resolved. In this quiet, mist-wrapped corner of New Zealand, the Kaimanawa wall stands as a silent sentinel, urging us to wonder, to reflect, and to imagine what other secrets might still lie hidden in the world around us. From the rugged peaks and enigmatic stones of New Zealand, where questions of origin and intention linger in the mist, our exploration now turns across seas and centuries to the eastern Mediterranean, where a single parchment carries a puzzle that has fascinated historians, cartographers, and explorers for over 5 centuries. The Piri Reis map, drawn in 1513 by the Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis, is more than a historical artifact. It is a window into a world at the crossroads of knowledge, imagination, and the unknown. Measuring just over half a meter in width, the map is remarkable not for its size, but for the precision and ambition it displays. Detailed coastlines, islands, and geographic features are rendered in vibrant ink, annotated with meticulous notes and references to earlier sources. South America, parts of Europe, and the Atlantic archipelagos are drawn with surprising accuracy for its time. Yet it is the depiction of areas farther south, particularly the edges of Antarctica, or what some interpret as the southern continent, that has fueled centuries of debate. How could a map from the early 16th century portray lands that would not be formally explored for hundreds of years? The Piri Reis map is itself a compilation. In his own notes, Piri Reis claimed to have drawn upon approximately 20 earlier charts, including sources from Portuguese, Spanish, and Arab navigators. This admission underscores a fascinating truth about the period. Explorers and scholars were already gathering knowledge from distant lands, sometimes combining empirical observation with hearsay and legend. Yet the map's precision, particularly in some southern latitudes, seems to surpass what would be expected from conventional maritime charts of the era. Were these depictions drawn from detailed observation, from lost maps, or perhaps from a source entirely unknown to modern scholarship? What makes the map particularly intriguing are the anomalies that continue to provoke curiosity. Portions of the coastline appear to show topography beneath the ice of Antarctica, including mountains and inlets, leading some researchers to speculate that the map preserves knowledge from a time when the continent was free of ice, a controversial and widely debated idea. Mainstream scholars attribute these features to misinterpretation of South American geography or artistic extrapolation, yet the speculation persists, fueled by the precision with which certain landforms are rendered. Could the Piri Reis map be evidence of forgotten exploration, ancient surveying techniques, or perhaps even knowledge transmitted through sources now lost to time? Beyond the map's geography lies another layer of intrigue: the annotations themselves. Written in Ottoman Turkish, Piri Reis includes references to the sources he consulted, often acknowledging the limits of his own understanding. He cites accounts of travelers, sailors, and navigators, blending observation with storytelling. In places, the descriptions are almost poetic, mentioning islands rich in resources or dangerous reefs where ships might founder. These marginal notes reveal a mind attentive to both detail and narrative, bridging practical navigation with an almost literary curiosity. Yet the map's most provocative mysteries are left unspoken, embedded in the very shapes of the coastlines and the distances suggested between continents. Scholars continue to debate the map's sources and accuracy. Some suggest it may preserve traces of ancient maritime knowledge passed down through lost civilizations or civilizations not typically associated with advanced navigation. Others point to the ingenuity of Piri Reis himself, his ability to synthesize diverse sources, and the cumulative knowledge of Mediterranean and Atlantic navigators as sufficient to account for the map's anomalies. There is no consensus, and perhaps that is part of the map's enduring allure. It sits at the intersection of fact and possibility, where human curiosity meets the unknown. The map's discovery in the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul in the early 20th century added another chapter to its story. Preserved relatively intact, it became the subject of intense study, revealing the extraordinary craftsmanship of Ottoman cartography. The delicate hatching, the careful coloring, and the clarity of coastal outlines testify to a culture that valued knowledge, precision, and aesthetic presentation. And yet, despite these strengths, the map continues to provoke questions about what it represents and what it might conceal. Are we seeing the limits of early modern exploration or glimpsing fragments of a knowledge network that predates recorded history? For modern observers, the Piri Reis map is as much a meditation on human curiosity as it is a navigational tool. It reminds us that the drive to understand the world has always been intertwined with imagination, speculation, and interpretation. The map challenges us to consider how knowledge is transmitted, how perception shapes representation, and how even fragments of information can endure, waiting centuries before their significance is fully appreciated. Each line, each annotation, becomes an invitation to probe deeper, to question assumptions, and to imagine the hands and minds that shape the world before us. As we contemplate the Piri Reis map, a theme emerges that has threaded through every site we have explored. Human beings, across time and space, have consistently left traces of knowledge, skill, and wonder. Traces that do not always fit neatly into our understanding of history. From the stone arrangements of New Zealand to the golden hats of Europe, from the engraved mounds of Ohio to the sacred caves of Peru, these artifacts speak to curiosity, ingenuity, and the enduring human desire to map and understand the unknown. And so, the map asks us a quiet but persistent question. What knowledge did Piri Reis truly inherit, and what might have been lost along the way? Were their sources now vanished, explorers unrecorded, or wisdom transmitted in ways we cannot fully reconstruct? The parchment itself remains unchanged, its ink fading but its mystery alive. As with footprints frozen in mud, earthworks etched in clay, and ceremonial stones carved into mountainsides, the Piri Reis map beckons us to wonder, to question, and to imagine the hidden chapters of human history that may yet be waiting to emerge from obscurity. From the faded parchment of the Piri Reis map, where inked lines hint at distant continents and lost knowledge, our journey now moves to the gentle hills of central France, where another enigma lies buried in the soil: the Glozel artifacts. Discovered in 1924 near the village of Glozel, these objects, fragments of pottery, inscribed tablets, carved bones, and small figurines, emerged from the earth in a way that immediately challenged conventional understanding. What appeared to be ordinary agricultural land concealed a trove of human expression, yet its age, origin, and meaning remain shrouded in mystery to this day. The artifacts themselves are as diverse as they are perplexing. Clay tablets etched with symbols, often arranged in linear or geometric patterns, share space with small ceramic figurines, bone tools, and even fragments bearing what appear to be inscriptions. Some symbols suggest numerals or counting systems, while others resemble abstract pictographs, offering tantalizing hints of language or proto-writing. The sheer variety of the finds raises immediate questions. Who created these objects, for what purpose, and why in this seemingly isolated location? Initial studies suggested that the Glozel site could date back to the Neolithic period, placing it thousands of years before the Middle Ages. Radiocarbon dating and thermoluminescence tests over subsequent decades, however, have produced inconsistent results, spanning several millennia and sometimes contradicting one another. This uncertainty has fueled intense debate, making it difficult to place the site within a coherent historical narrative. Was Glozel an early settlement, a ritual center, or something entirely different? And how could a small village in central France produce artifacts of such apparent sophistication? The discovery itself is a story of both chance and controversy. A young farmer named Émile Fradin first uncovered the site while tending his fields, exposing fragments of pottery and stones embedded with strange symbols. Scholars and collectors soon flocked to the area, and excavations revealed more artifacts, though the methodologies of the time were rudimentary by modern standards. As news spread, the site became the subject of heated debate within the archaeological community. Some experts accused Fradin and his supporters of forgery, suggesting that the artifacts were modern creations designed to deceive. Others insisted on their authenticity, pointing to the complexity of the objects and the context in which they were found. The inscriptions themselves remain among the most enigmatic aspects of Glozel. Linear arrangements of symbols appear repeatedly across different tablets, suggesting some form of system or code. Certain patterns resemble proto-writing observed in other prehistoric European sites, yet no direct parallels have been conclusively identified. Could these be an early form of symbolic communication, a counting system, or even a ritual script whose meaning has been lost to time? Without a Rosetta Stone to provide context, every interpretation is necessarily tentative, and each new analysis seems only to deepen the mystery. Beyond the symbols, the artifacts raise broader questions about cultural development in ancient Europe. Some fragments bear marks of skilled craftsmanship, indicating knowledge of firing techniques, metallurgy, and sculpting far beyond what might be expected from a small rural settlement. How was this knowledge acquired? Did the creators of Glozel belong to a previously unknown culture, or were they part of a larger network of prehistoric peoples whose traces have largely vanished? The artifacts suggest a sophistication that seems at odds with their isolated location, challenging assumptions about the diffusion of technology and culture in early Europe. Speculative theories have naturally emerged around the site. Some have suggested connections to lost civilizations or previously unknown trade networks, positing that the artifacts could reflect influences from distant regions. Others propose that the symbols may encode astronomical, calendrical, or religious knowledge, similar in concept to the golden hats of Bronze Age Europe or the alignments of ancient ceremonial sites. While these ideas remain conjectural, they underscore the enduring fascination of Glozel. It is a place where human curiosity and ingenuity intersect with mystery, leaving room for wonder as well as scholarly inquiry. The controversy surrounding Glozel has not diminished its intrigue. Throughout the 20th century, the site was alternately celebrated and denounced, with some museums accepting artifacts as authentic, while others refused to display them. Laboratory tests, academic studies, and public debate have all contributed to a body of knowledge that is both rich and inconclusive. Even today, the artifacts provoke questions about how we assess authenticity, interpret symbols, and understand the cultural context of objects removed from their original environment. For those who visit Glozel or study the artifacts in museum collections, the experience is one of quiet reflection. Each tablet, figurine, and bone fragment is a fragment of human expression, a trace of thought, skill, and perhaps ritual practice that has endured despite uncertainty and controversy. They invite us to imagine the lives of the people who created them, the hands that carved symbols into clay, the minds that conceived of figurines and inscriptions, and the world in which such creativity could take shape, largely unknown to history. In reflecting on Glozel, a pattern begins to emerge among the sites we have explored. From the icy southern reaches hinted at in the Piri Reis map to the isolated peaks of New Zealand, from the gilded conical hats of Europe to the engraved mounds of Ohio, human ingenuity repeatedly confronts the unknown. In each case, traces remain, sometimes monumental, sometimes small, sometimes ambiguous, inviting questions about knowledge, purpose, and transmission across time and space. The Glozel artifacts remind us that history is not a tidy record of events alone. It is also an archive of intention, creativity, and enigma. And so, the question persists. Who created these objects, and what messages did they intend to leave behind? Were they everyday items, ritual tools, or records of a symbolic system now lost? Or might they, like so many of the mysteries we have explored, be reminders that the past contains layers of human experience we may never fully decipher? In the quiet hills of central France, the earth holds its secrets closely, and the Glozel artifacts endure as a silent, persistent invitation to wonder, to imagine, and to continue seeking what may still be hidden beneath the soil. From the quiet hills of central France, where the Glozel artifacts lay buried in soil and mystery, our journey now sweeps across continents and climates to the vast, sun-baked expanses of the Middle Eastern deserts. Here, across stretches of Syria, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and the Sinai, lie thousands of enigmatic structures etched into the arid landscape, the so-called desert kites. Viewed from above, these formations resemble immense geometric patterns, long tapering lines converging on stone enclosures, reminiscent of giant nets cast upon the sand. Yet on the ground, they are subtle, almost invisible to those walking their perimeters, revealing themselves fully only to the perspective of flight or satellite imagery. The kites are composed of low stone walls, sometimes stretching for hundreds or even thousands of meters, arranged in V-shaped funnels that lead to enclosed pens. From a distance, they seem deceptively simple, yet the scale and precision suggest deliberate planning and purpose. Archaeologists believe these formations date back thousands of years, some as early as the Neolithic period, yet their true function has long been debated. Were they tools for survival, ingenious hunting implements designed to trap large herds of game? Or did they serve a more complex social or ritual role, embedded in patterns of mobility, trade, and communal cooperation? The prevailing explanation is that the kites were indeed animal traps. Hunters may have driven herds of gazelles, ibex, or other ungulates along the converging walls into enclosures where the animals could be dispatched efficiently. The design is remarkably sophisticated. Narrow funnels guide movement, often positioned to take advantage of natural topography, prevailing winds, and sight lines. Some enclosures suggest multiple chambers or killing zones, while others might have been temporary holding pens, allowing communities to harvest resources over time. The effort required to construct such extensive walls, using dry stone techniques, sometimes over kilometers of terrain, speaks to organized labor and careful knowledge of animal behavior. Yet, even with a plausible function, the kites carry an air of mystery. Why build such monumental traps in seemingly remote desert landscapes, often far from permanent settlements? Some researchers suggest that the kites may have been part of seasonal hunting strategies, reflecting a deep understanding of migratory patterns and ecological knowledge. Others propose that they were more than tools. They may have been symbolic or ritual spaces, perhaps tied to ceremonies marking the hunt, the changing of seasons, or communal cooperation. The intersection of practical use and symbolic meaning remains tantalizingly opaque. The scale of the kites adds to their enigmatic nature. Certain complexes extend for several kilometers, with walls perfectly aligned in a sweeping geometric form that can be discerned only from a distance. The regularity of angles and spacing raises questions about planning, surveying, and coordination. How did prehistoric communities, without modern instruments, achieve such precision over vast expanses of desert? And why, over centuries, did this practice persist across regions separated by hundreds of kilometers? The uniformity suggests knowledge passed across generations, yet no written records or oral histories survive to illuminate their origins. Further intrigue arises from the variety of kite designs. Some feature simple two-arm funnels leading to a single enclosure, while others incorporate multiple branching channels, circular holding pens, or connected complexes that could trap and manage hundreds of animals at once. Certain kites appear strategically oriented relative to mountains, valleys, or prevailing winds, hinting at an acute environmental awareness. Could these structures represent a prehistoric intersection of architecture, ecology, and social organization, where survival required not only skill and coordination, but also careful observation of the natural world? Speculative interpretations have extended beyond practical hunting. A few researchers have proposed that kites may have served ceremonial or symbolic purposes, marking territory or reinforcing social cohesion through shared labor and communal hunts. Others suggest that some designs could encode cosmological or astronomical knowledge, though evidence remains circumstantial. The desert itself, vast and seemingly immutable, acts as both stage and canvas, preserving patterns that challenge modern observers to distinguish the functional from the symbolic, the practical from the enigmatic. For those who venture into the deserts to study or photograph the kites, the experience is both humbling and disorienting. From the ground, the walls may appear modest, mere stone lines upon sand, yet from the air the full scope unfolds, thousands of interconnected patterns stretching to the horizon. It is a reminder that human ingenuity can be monumental, yet subtle, leaving traces that are invisible until viewed from the proper perspective. The kites challenge assumptions about prehistoric societies, suggesting not only survival skills, but also planning, collaboration, and an intimate understanding of the environment. In reflecting on the desert kites, a broader pattern emerges across the sites we have explored, from the symbolic clay of Glozel to the precise lines of the Piri Reis map, from the sacred peaks of New Zealand to the gilded hats of Europe. Human beings have repeatedly shaped the world to meet practical, spiritual, and intellectual needs. In each instance, traces endure that provoke wonder, invite investigation, and resist simple explanation. The kites are a manifestation of this impulse, practical in design, extraordinary in scale, yet suffused with unanswered questions about the people who built them, the knowledge they held, and the landscapes they transformed. Ultimately, the desert kites leave us with a lingering reflection. What motivated these early builders to etch such monumental forms into the earth? And what knowledge, lost to time, guided their construction? Were these structures solely practical tools, ingenious solutions to survival, or did they carry a significance beyond the material, echoing rituals, cosmology, or social cohesion? The answers remain elusive, yet the walls themselves endure, etched into the desert like silent testimony, awaiting those who can trace their lines, imagine their use, and wonder at the ingenuity of those who came before. From the sweeping deserts of the Middle East, where the kites etched human ingenuity into the sand, our journey now moves to a world of dense green canopies, winding rivers, and endless foliage, the Amazon rainforest and the jungles of Mesoamerica. For centuries, these regions were thought to conceal only untamed wilderness, the remnants of isolated tribes and scattered settlements. Yet in recent years, a revolution in technology has revealed landscapes that have been hiding in plain sight for centuries. Vast, sophisticated urban centers, networks of roads, terraces, and plazas, invisible to the naked eye but laid bare by the precision of LIDAR, light detection, and ranging. From above, the thick foliage seems impenetrable, a living green barrier concealing the secrets of the past. But LIDAR pulses through the canopy, bouncing lasers off the ground to create three-dimensional maps of the terrain below. What emerges is astonishing. Sprawling city grids, ceremonial plazas, causeways linking settlements, and defensive structures. In the Amazon, where explorers once assumed only small, scattered villages existed, the revelations suggest dense urban planning, with settlements housing tens of thousands of people. Similarly, in Mesoamerica, LIDAR has unveiled hidden extensions of known sites, revealing previously unknown pyramids, ball courts, and complex infrastructure, indicating civilizations far more extensive and interconnected than historical records had suggested. The scale and sophistication of these hidden cities challenge long-held assumptions about human habitation in these regions. How did people manipulate the environment on such a massive scale, carving terraces into steep hillsides, redirecting waterways, and constructing elevated causeways to withstand seasonal flooding? These feats of engineering demonstrate an intimate understanding of both the land and ecological management, hinting at a cultural complexity that has been obscured by the forest itself. The very notion that entire cities could remain hidden under dense jungle for centuries invites us to reconsider the limits of historical knowledge. Some of the discoveries raise even deeper mysteries. In the Amazon, LIDAR has revealed geometric formations and patterns that suggest ceremonial or astronomical significance. Circular plazas, radial roads, and raised mounds form alignments that echo the sophistication of old-world cities, yet developed independently within a vastly different environment. Could these patterns reflect cosmological knowledge, social hierarchy, or ritual practices? And if so, how were such complex ideas transmitted across generations in a landscape so difficult to navigate and preserve? The hidden cities also provoke questions about population and scale. Conventional archaeological understanding once suggested that the Amazon could only support small, scattered communities. LIDAR, however, reveals evidence of extensive urban networks, suggesting populations in the tens or even hundreds of thousands, supported by intricate agricultural systems such as raised fields, canals, and terraces. These discoveries imply a social organization, knowledge of sustainable food production, and architectural skill that challenge long-standing assumptions about pre-Columbian life. How did these civilizations manage to thrive in such a challenging environment without leaving more visible traces for the modern era to discover? Mesoamerican discoveries through LIDAR are equally compelling. Sites like Tikal, Caracol, and the surrounding regions of Guatemala reveal dense city networks, previously hidden roads, and interconnected urban layouts. What were once thought to be isolated monuments now appear as nodes within vast urban webs. These findings force a reconsideration of the scale of trade, governance, and cultural interaction in pre-Columbian Mesoamerica. Could these urban networks reflect a level of societal coordination and complexity rivaling that of contemporary civilizations elsewhere in the world, and yet have remained concealed for centuries beneath the jungle canopy? The mysteries extend beyond engineering and urban planning. Artifacts, ceramics, and structures revealed in these hidden cities hint at spiritual and symbolic dimensions, though much remains obscured. Temples, pyramids, and plazas appear carefully aligned or situated within natural landscapes, suggesting rituals or cultural practices tied to both the cosmos and the environment. Yet the full extent of these societies' belief systems, political hierarchies, and daily life remains largely speculative, shrouded in the silence of the jungle and the gaps in the written or oral record. For modern explorers, archaeologists, and technologists, LIDAR has transformed the rainforest from a barrier into a window. Sites once thought inaccessible are now mapped with precision, revealing the footprint of civilizations that thrived for centuries before European contact. Yet for all its clarity, LIDAR cannot answer the deeper questions. Who precisely inhabited these cities? How knowledge and governance were organized? And what ultimately led to their disappearance beneath the forest? These questions linger, inviting reflection on the transient yet enduring imprint of human societies. The revelations of hidden cities in Amazonia and Mesoamerica echo a recurring theme we have seen across diverse landscapes. The past often hides its complexities beneath layers of earth, vegetation, or water, waiting for tools, curiosity, and ingenuity to reveal it. From desert kites guiding animals across arid expanses to the precision of ancient urban planning in dense jungles, humanity has repeatedly shaped environments in ways that remain invisible until the proper lens is applied. These discoveries challenge assumptions, inspire awe, and underscore the profound resilience and creativity of human civilizations. And so, the hidden cities prompt a quiet but persistent question. How many more wonders lie concealed beneath the forests, deserts, and landscapes we assume we know? What civilizations, ideas, and innovations remain locked beneath the green canopy, waiting for discovery? As LIDAR pulses through the trees, uncovering walls, plazas, and causeways, we are reminded that history is far richer and stranger than we often imagine, and that even in the most inaccessible corners of our world, the human story continues to reveal itself in fragments, inviting us to look closer, think deeper, and wonder at the ingenuity that has endured across millennia. From the dense jungles of Amazonia and the intricate networks of Mesoamerican cities revealed by LIDAR, our journey now returns to the remote and rugged landscapes of New Zealand, where mystery once again emerges not in sprawling settlements or monumental architecture, but in a fragment so small and unexpected that it has captured the imagination of explorers, paleontologists, and skeptics alike: the Mount Owen Claw. Nestled in the steep, mist-shrouded slopes of the Owen Range on the South Island, this enigmatic discovery is at once tantalizing and puzzling, offering a glimpse into a past that seems just beyond the reach of conventional understanding. In 1939, a fossil collector named S. Morehouse uncovered a remarkably well-preserved claw, seemingly belonging to a large predatory creature, embedded in sedimentary rock in Mount Owen's remote valleys. Measuring several centimeters in length, the fossil was immediately striking for its unusual shape, robust curvature, and sharp tip, suggesting a creature of considerable size and predatory capability. What made the discovery extraordinary, however, was the context. The claw appeared to be embedded in rock layers dating back tens of millions of years, yet it seemed inexplicably similar to claws of modern birds of prey, or even certain dinosaur species that were thought to have disappeared long before New Zealand's landmass stabilized. Scientific scrutiny followed quickly. Geologists and paleontologists confirmed the age of the rock layer, placing it in the Cretaceous period, well before the known evolution of avian species in the region. Morphologically, the claw was reminiscent of theropod dinosaurs, yet New Zealand, at the time, was believed to have been submerged or disconnected from continental land masses in a way that would make such a fossil extraordinarily unlikely. How could such a creature have existed in isolation on an island that geological evidence suggests was largely underwater or extremely remote? And how had it been preserved so perfectly, evading erosion and discovery for millions of years? Mainstream explanations propose that the claw belongs to a known extinct species of giant bird, perhaps related to the moa, or a primitive avian predator whose remains are simply rare. Moa, flightless birds that dominated New Zealand until the arrival of humans, possessed large talons. Yet the curvature and robustness of this particular claw exceed typical measurements, leaving room for speculation. Could it represent an entirely unknown species, a lineage of predator birds previously undocumented? Or might it belong to an ancient theropod that somehow survived on isolated land masses long after its kind vanished elsewhere? Further intrigue arises from the location itself. Mount Owen is remote, with steep valleys, jagged peaks, and dense alpine vegetation. The claw was discovered in a sedimentary deposit, suggesting it had been preserved under conditions that shielded it from the ravages of time. Yet the surrounding region has yielded few comparable fossils. Why here, and why so singular? Some suggest the terrain itself may have acted as a natural trap or repository, preserving remains that elsewhere would have eroded or been scavenged. Others propose that the area's relative isolation could hint at populations of prehistoric creatures that thrived unnoticed, tucked away in New Zealand's rugged heartlands. Speculative interpretations have naturally emerged around the claw. A few researchers have entertained the possibility that it represents a living fossil, a lineage that survived in isolation beyond its expected extinction. Others suggest it may indicate the presence of unknown prehistoric predators that occupied New Zealand in parallel with early avian species, defying conventional timelines of evolution and dispersal. While these ideas remain conjectural, the very presence of the claw in this remote location underscores the broader lesson of paleontology. Our understanding of the past is shaped as much by what we have yet to find as by what we have already unearthed. The Mount Owen claw also invites reflection on the interplay between discovery and perception. Small, isolated finds, like this single fossil, can challenge entire narratives about evolution, geography, and ecology. The claw stands as a testament to the possibility that significant chapters of natural history may still lie hidden, preserved in sediment, rock, or remote terrain, awaiting the right observer to uncover them. The mystery is amplified by the difficulty of accessing the site. Steep slopes, unpredictable weather, and dense vegetation make repeated expeditions arduous, leaving the fossil largely isolated and its context incompletely explored. For modern explorers and paleontologists, the claw evokes a sense of wonder and caution. It reminds us that the fossil record is fragmentary, that single discoveries can hint at worlds far more complex than we imagine, and that the process of piecing together ancient life is often as much about inference as it is about direct evidence. What has survived in Mount Owen is both specific and ambiguous, inviting interpretation, but refusing closure. Its sharp tip and curved form are eloquent in their own right, yet mute regarding the life, behavior, and ecology of the creature to which it belonged. In contemplating the Mount Owen claw, a theme emerges consistent with the sites we have explored throughout this journey. From the desert kites that shaped animal movements across vast arid landscapes to the hidden cities beneath jungle canopies, human ingenuity and natural processes intersect with enigma and the unknown. The claw reminds us that mystery is not limited to monumental structures or extensive civilizations. It can reside in a single artifact, a fragment of bone, a trace of life preserved against all odds. It challenges assumptions, urging humility in the face of evidence, and curiosity in the pursuit of knowledge. Ultimately, the Mount Owen claw leaves us with a quiet, persistent question. What creature bore this talon, and what does it reveal about life on New Zealand millions of years ago? Was it part of a lineage previously unknown, an anomaly in the fossil record, or a tantalizing hint of prehistoric ecosystems yet to be fully understood? The claw rests in museum collections today, its edges still sharp, its curve still commanding attention, a small yet profound testament to a world that existed long before humans arrived, and to the enduring mysteries that remain hidden in the most remote corners of our planet. From the rugged peaks and enigmatic talons of Mount Owen in New Zealand, where a single claw hints at life forms long vanished, our journey now moves to the high-altitude plains of the Bolivian Andes, where the earth itself has been inscribed with lines that stretch across the landscape in silent testimony to human presence. These are the Sajama lines, thousands of straight, interconnected paths etched into the volcanic soil of the Altiplano, a region defined by stark mountains, wind-swept plains, and an expanse that seems infinite under the high-altitude sky. Viewed from the ground, the lines may appear as modest grooves in the terrain, but from above, their scale, geometry, and precision are nothing short of extraordinary. The Sajama lines extend over hundreds of kilometers, forming an intricate web of straight paths that intersect, diverge, and converge in ways that suggest intention and planning. Some lines stretch unbroken for tens of kilometers, crossing valleys, lava flows, and ridges, defying natural topography in their linear perfection. Archaeologists have noted that they often align with sacred mountains, shrines, or ancient villages, indicating a relationship between the pathways and the cultural or spiritual geography of the region. Yet, the sheer scale raises profound questions. How were such lines maintained with such precision across such challenging terrain, and for what purpose? The lines' origins are difficult to date precisely. They are believed to predate the Spanish conquest, with some scholars suggesting they may have been created by pre-Inca or early Andean cultures. Made by scraping away the dark surface stones to reveal lighter soil beneath, The lines are subtle yet enduring, with some remaining visible even after centuries of erosion. Their longevity attests not only to the builder's skill, but also to the careful selection of a landscape conducive to preservation. How many hands, over how many generations, contributed to this vast, interconnected network, and what cultural memory guided their construction? Mainstream explanations often propose that the Sajama lines served as ceremonial or pilgrimage routes. Local tradition and anthropological study suggest that the paths may have connected sacred sites, facilitating processions or marking routes between spiritual centers. Certain lines appear to lead directly toward volcanic peaks or shrines, hinting at cosmological or ritual significance. Yet despite these insights, the full intent of the lines remains elusive. Unlike roads for trade or daily travel, their straightness, minimal deviation, and apparent disregard for natural obstacles suggest symbolic rather than purely functional purposes. The scale and geometry of the lines deepen the mystery. In some areas, they form geometric patterns, grids, parallel arrangements, and alignments that hint at knowledge of surveying, spatial planning, and perhaps even astronomical observation. Could these straight lines represent a sophisticated understanding of the landscape, celestial cycles, or social organization? The absence of definitive markers or written explanations leaves room for interpretation, yet the uniformity and precision suggest deliberate design, executed with careful observation and coordination. Beyond their physical characteristics, the Sajama lines provoke broader questions about human engagement with the landscape. The Altiplano is a harsh, windswept environment, and constructing such extensive networks would have required not only labor, but also communal vision, cultural cohesion, and a belief in the value of marking the land in such a monumental way. What societal structures enabled this undertaking? Were the lines a manifestation of spiritual devotion, a method of territorial demarcation, or perhaps a form of communication spanning valleys and mountains long before modern mapping? Each possibility tantalizes without providing definitive answers. Speculative interpretations have naturally emerged. Some researchers have suggested that the lines may have functioned as astronomical markers, aligning with solstices or celestial events, or as symbolic pathways guiding the souls of the deceased toward sacred mountains. Others have considered that they represent a complex system of knowledge encoded into the landscape, perhaps even a form of prehistoric cartography, visible only from elevated vantage points or through communal memory. While evidence remains largely circumstantial, these hypotheses underscore the power of the lines to stimulate imagination and inquiry, illustrating the human impulse to shape, interpret, and communicate through the environment itself. The Sajama lines also invite reflection on perception and scale. From the ground, the grooves are modest and easily overlooked, blending into the volcanic plains. Yet from the air, the full complexity of the network emerges. This duality highlights the ingenuity of the builders, a creation intended to exist simultaneously within human experience on the land, and as part of a larger, perhaps symbolic, design perceivable only from a broader perspective. It is a reminder that human intervention in the landscape can be subtle, enduring, and sophisticated, transcending immediate utility to leave a cultural imprint that echoes across generations. In contemplating the Sajama lines, a pattern emerges that resonates with the sites we have explored throughout this journey. From fossilized talons in New Zealand to desert kites in the Middle East, from LIDAR-revealed jungle cities to the geometric precision of ancient ceremonial constructions, humanity has repeatedly shaped environments to reflect knowledge, belief, and aspiration. The lines of Sajama are part of this continuum. Modest in appearance, vast in scale, and profound in implication, standing as silent reminders of societies whose intentions, knowledge, and spiritual life continue to provoke wonder. Ultimately, the Sajama lines leave us with a quiet, persistent question. Who envisioned this vast network of paths, and what stories, beliefs, or purposes did they intend to convey? Were the lines markers of pilgrimage, symbols of cosmology, instruments of social cohesion, or perhaps something entirely beyond our comprehension? The answers remain hidden in the high plains, etched into the volcanic soil, waiting for those willing to trace their course, contemplate their origin, and imagine the lives of the people who left them behind. Even after centuries of erosion, human activity, and shifting landscapes, the Sajama lines endure, inviting us to wonder at the ingenuity, devotion, and mystery that continue to shape the world beneath our feet. From the high plains of Bolivia, where the Sajama lines trace human intention across volcanic soil, our exploration now moves eastward across the vast Pacific to the waters surrounding the southernmost islands of Japan. Just off the coast of Yonaguni, the westernmost of the Ryukyu Islands, lies a submerged formation that has captivated divers, geologists, and archaeologists for decades: the Yonaguni Monument. Rising from the ocean floor like a sunken city frozen in time, this underwater structure challenges perception, inviting both awe and doubt. The first glimpses of the Yonaguni Monument reveal sheer terraces, angular steps, flat platforms, and what appear to be walls and roads carved from the solid bedrock. At first, one might think it a natural formation. Erosion and geological forces can create strikingly regular patterns, but repeated dives, detailed mapping, and photographic surveys suggest deliberate design. The formations display precise right angles, sharp corners, and parallel alignments rarely seen in purely natural geology, leading some researchers to propose that this is the remnant of an ancient civilization, now submerged beneath the waves. The monument lies at a depth of approximately 5 to 25 meters, with a total estimated area of over 8,000 square meters. Its features are immense: terraces measuring dozens of meters across, large flat platforms that could have served as plazas, and ridges that resemble roads or stairways. Carvings in the stone suggest possible human intervention, including what some interpret as channels for water drainage or ceremonial pathways. While mainstream geology acknowledges the role of tectonic activity, weathering, and ocean currents in shaping the seafloor, the geometric regularity of certain features continues to provoke debate. Are these formations entirely natural, a rare product of erosion and fracturing, or do they bear the unmistakable mark of intentional human construction? Dating the Yonaguni Monument presents another challenge. Sea levels during the last glacial maximum, roughly 12,000 to 15,000 years ago, were significantly lower, potentially exposing the structure as dry land. If the monument is indeed man-made, it could predate the rise of the earliest known civilizations in East Asia, suggesting a culture capable of monumental stonework long before historical records attest. Could this site represent a lost chapter of human history, a civilization erased by rising seas and the passage of millennia? Or are we misreading the hand of nature, projecting intention onto patterns born of geology? The debate is further complicated by comparisons to known megalithic sites. The scale and precision of the terraces and platforms evoke images of other ancient monuments, where humans shaped stone to serve ritualistic, residential, or administrative purposes. Proponents of the artificial theory argue that certain features, such as near-perfect right angles, straight edges extending for tens of meters, and large polygonal faces, are unlikely to occur naturally. Critics counter that similar formations can arise through fracturing along natural joints, tectonic stresses, and marine erosion, particularly in sandstone or sedimentary rock. The truth, it seems, lies somewhere in the tension between natural processes and human intervention. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Yonaguni Monument is its apparent symmetry and alignment. Certain terraces and platforms appear to follow cardinal directions or consistent orientations, suggesting a purpose beyond mere practicality. Could the builders have been encoding cosmological knowledge, designing spaces for ritualistic activities, or marking territorial or navigational reference points? And if so, what might these choices reveal about a society lost to time and about their understanding of astronomy, geography, or spiritual order? Speculation has naturally expanded into broader theories. Some researchers suggest the site may be connected to mythic accounts of lost civilizations in the Pacific, such as the fabled Mu or Lemuria, while others remain cautious, emphasizing the need for rigorous geological and archaeological study. Regardless of origin, the monument's presence challenges assumptions about the capabilities and distribution of early human cultures, reminding us that our understanding of prehistory is shaped as much by what has survived as by what has been lost to the ocean and time. For divers exploring Yonaguni today, the experience is simultaneously humbling and unsettling. Descending into the clear, blue depths, one moves along terraces that stretch into shadows, steps that lead to unknown platforms, and channels that disappear into the seabed. The ocean's gentle currents lend an ethereal quality to the structures, erasing boundaries between natural and artificial, past and present. Each dive raises questions that cannot be answered by observation alone. Who carved these formations, if they are indeed man-made? What purpose did they serve? And how much knowledge, culture, or civilization has been swallowed by the rising sea? The Yonaguni monument also reflects a recurring theme we have encountered throughout this journey. Across continents and millennia, from the clawed talons of Mount Owen to the geometric pathways of the Sajama lines, from desert kites to hidden jungle cities, human or natural traces endure that challenge conventional understanding. They remind us that the past is rarely straightforward, that landscapes can conceal astonishing ingenuity, and that interpretation often requires both caution and imagination. The monument, like other sites we have explored, exists at the intersection of certainty and possibility, science and speculation, offering clues while guarding its deepest secrets. Ultimately, the Yonaguni monument leaves a lingering question in its submerged terraces and shadowed platforms. Is this a creation of human hands, a testament to a forgotten civilization, or a remarkable accident of nature, sculpted by time, tectonics, and currents? Perhaps it is both, a place where the natural and human histories intertwine so seamlessly that they defy easy distinction. As the currents swirl and sunlight dances across the stone, the monument endures as a silent invitation to dive deeper, to look closer, and to wonder at the mysteries that remain hidden beneath the surface of our world, waiting for those patient enough to seek them out. From the submerged terraces of Yonaguni, where stone and sea converge in enigmatic formations, our journey now shifts northward across continents and millennia to the rolling plains and river valleys of Transylvania in modern-day Romania. Here, in a modest excavation site near the village of Tartaria, a small object was unearthed in 1961 that would challenge assumptions about the origins of writing and human symbolic thought. A set of clay tablets bearing incised symbols that have come to be known as the Tartaria amulets. These artifacts, no larger than a hand, carry markings that hint at some of the earliest known attempts at human communication through script, yet their meaning, purpose, and provenance remain deeply contested. The amulets are unassuming in appearance, small clay fragments, sometimes shaped with simple reliefs, sometimes rectangular, with lines, dots, crosses, and geometric patterns etched into their surfaces. At first glance, they might be dismissed as decorative or ritual objects, but the repeated motifs suggest intentionality beyond ornamentation. Carbon dating and archaeological context place the artifacts within the late Neolithic period, around 5,500 to 5,200 BCE, contemporaneous with the Vinca culture, a society renowned for its artistic expression and early settlements in the Danube basin. Yet while the Vinca people left a wealth of pottery, figurines, and symbolic motifs, the Tartaria amulets stand out for the apparent sophistication and deliberate sequencing of their incisions. What is most striking and most controversial about the Tartaria amulets is the suggestion that they may represent one of the earliest forms of proto-writing in the world. Scholars note parallels with Vinca symbols found elsewhere in the region, yet the arrangement and repetition of certain motifs on these amulets hint at intentional communication, possibly encoding information about ritual, social hierarchy, or ownership. Could these markings constitute a true script, predating known writing systems in Mesopotamia by over a millennium? Or are they symbolic patterns whose meaning is now irretrievably lost? The context of their discovery adds another layer of intrigue. The amulets were found buried beneath a layer of soil alongside human remains and other ritual items, suggesting they may have served a ceremonial purpose function, perhaps as talismans or offerings. The presence of burial context raises questions. Were these objects personal markers, protective charms, or conduits for spiritual expression? And if so, what kind of beliefs or practices did the Vinca people maintain? And how might these markings have communicated significance within their community? Mainstream interpretations caution against overreaching claims. Many archaeologists argue that the symbols, while ordered, do not yet constitute fully developed writing in the conventional sense. They may represent proto-writing, mnemonic devices, or ritualistic iconography rather than phonetic or semantic communication. Yet the mere possibility that humans were experimenting with symbolic representation thousands of years before established cuneiform and hieroglyphic systems is itself extraordinary. The amulets push the boundaries of what we know about cognitive and cultural development in Neolithic Europe, inviting speculation about the interplay of ritual, art, and early literacy. The Tartaria amulets also illuminate the enduring mystery of cultural transmission and isolation. Were these symbols an isolated experiment of the Vinca culture, or do they hint at broader networks of communication across prehistoric Europe? How was knowledge about symbolic representation, ritual, or proto-writing transmitted between generations, and why did some forms flourish while others vanished? The amulet's small size and fragile material contrast sharply with the vast conceptual leap they may represent, underscoring the tension between the ephemeral nature of artifacts and the enduring questions they raise. Speculative theories have naturally emerged around the amulets. Some researchers suggest that they encode numerological, astronomical, or calendrical information, pointing to a sophisticated understanding of cycles and patterns in nature. Others consider the possibility that they represent an early attempt at language, an embryonic script that arose independently in Europe, challenging assumptions about the diffusion of literacy and symbolic systems. Though evidence remains circumstantial, the amulets evoke a profound sense of curiosity. They hint at minds grappling with abstraction, at societies striving to communicate and record knowledge in ways that resonate across millennia. For those who study the Tartaria amulets today, the experience is one of quiet reflection. Each incised line and repeated motif invites close examination, demanding attention to detail and imagination in equal measure. The artifacts themselves are small and fragile, yet they carry an intellectual weight that is disproportionate to their size. They remind us that history is often preserved in fragments, in subtle gestures of creativity and expression, and that even the tiniest object can pose questions that resonate across the world and through time. In contemplating the Tartaria amulets, a pattern emerges that mirrors what we have seen at other enigmatic sites. From the geometric precision of the Sajama lines to the submerged terraces of Yonaguni, from fossilized talons in New Zealand to hidden cities beneath jungles, human expression, whether through monumental architecture, symbolic lines, or incised clay, leaves traces that challenge understanding and provoke wonder. The amulets are a testament to the universality of human curiosity, the drive to communicate, and the desire to leave a mark on the world, even when the meaning of that mark may be lost to time. Ultimately, the Tartaria amulets leave us with a quiet, enduring question. What message were these ancient hands trying to convey, and what knowledge, belief, or memory did they hope to preserve? Were they simply decorative, symbolic, or ritual objects, or do they represent an early attempt to encode thought into a visual language, a bridge between imagination and communication that predates all known writing systems? The answers remain elusive, yet the incisions in clay endure, inviting us to look closer, to reflect, and to marvel at the ingenuity, curiosity, and mystery of those who came long before us. From the delicate incisions on clay in Transylvania, where the Tartaria amulets hint at humanity's earliest experiments with symbolic communication, our journey now travels southward across the Americas, to the lush tropical lowlands of Costa Rica. Nestled within the dense forests and rolling hills of the Diqui Delta and surrounding regions, there exist hundreds of smooth, almost impossibly round stone spheres, scattered across fields, terraces, and riverbanks. These enigmatic objects, known simply as the stone spheres of Costa Rica, have puzzled archaeologists and travelers alike for decades, their origin, purpose, and precision continuing to provoke wonder. The first impression of these spheres is one of uncanny perfection. Ranging in size from a few centimeters to over 2 meters in diameter, some weighing several tons, the stones are remarkably spherical, their surfaces polished smooth by an unknown process. In clusters and lines, they are often found on flattened terraces, seemingly placed with intention rather than by chance. When sunlight glances across their surfaces, the spheres catch the eye with a quiet brilliance, as if echoing the rhythm of the landscape itself. Yet their perfection is not simply aesthetic. It suggests a level of craftsmanship and planning that demands explanation. Archaeologists trace the creation of these spheres to the pre-Columbian Diquis culture, which thrived between 500 and 1500 CE. Carved from granodiorite, gabbro, and other hard stone, the spheres required extraordinary skill to shape and transport, especially given the lack of metal tools or draft animals. Some are found in precise alignments, in clusters that suggest social or ceremonial significance. Others appear alone, scattered across fields or hidden within riverbeds. The questions abound. How did these ancient hands achieve such symmetry? What methods were used to carve and polish stones of such immense hardness and size? And for what purpose were these stones placed in the landscape with such careful consideration? Mainstream interpretations suggest practical and symbolic functions. Some researchers propose that the spheres served as territorial markers, signaling boundaries or denoting social status. Others argue for ceremonial significance, noting that the spheres are often aligned with plazas, mounds, or ancient settlements, possibly marking sacred spaces or acting as focal points during ritual activities. Yet the precision with which some spheres are placed, forming straight lines or geometric arrangements, challenges simple explanations. The alignment and uniformity imply knowledge of surveying and spatial organization, suggesting that their creators possessed both aesthetic sensibility and technical skill. The spheres' scale and number amplify their mystery. In certain sites, hundreds of stones are clustered in patterns extending over tens of hectares. Transporting massive spheres, some weighing upwards of 15 tons, across uneven terrain without wheels or beasts of burden remains a logistical puzzle. Could these stones have been moved using levers, rolling logs, or other ingenuity lost to history? And what cultural imperative drove such labor-intensive effort? The physicality of the stones is inseparable from the social and symbolic effort required to place them, hinting at complex societal organization and shared vision. Beyond the practical and ceremonial theories, speculation has emerged regarding astronomical or cosmological significance. Some researchers note potential alignments of the spheres with solstices, cardinal directions, or landscape features such as rivers and hills. Could these spheres have functioned as markers of time, agricultural cycles, or celestial events? Or did they embody abstract representations of cosmology, symbolizing the universe, the sun, or the moon in tangible form? The absence of written records leaves these possibilities open, compelling us to infer meaning through placement, context, and comparative analysis. The spheres also challenge assumptions about the reach and sophistication of pre-Columbian cultures in the Americas. Often, their discovery evokes surprise at the level of technical skill required to quarry, shape, and transport these stones. Yet their creation reveals a society deeply attuned to its environment, capable of monumental effort and invested in the interplay between landscape, ritual, and social cohesion. The spheres stand as silent witnesses to human creativity, endurance, and imagination, preserved through centuries of weather, colonization, and changing land use. For those who wander the fields of the Diki Delta today, the experience is quietly mesmerizing. Stones lie scattered, aligned, and clustered, some partially buried, others protruding proudly from the soil. Their silence invites contemplation. Who placed these stones, and why? What ceremonies, beliefs, or social structures gave rise to such enduring artistry? And perhaps most intriguingly, how much knowledge, lost to time, guided the hands that shaped these perfect forms from raw stone? In reflecting upon the stone spheres of Costa Rica, a theme emerges consistent with the discoveries we have encountered across continents and millennia. From the symbolic markings of the Tartaria amulets to the submerged terraces of Yonaguni, from geometric lines etched across the Altiplano to the desert kites guiding animals in the Middle East, humanity has repeatedly left traces that challenge our understanding, that blur the line between function and symbolism, and that endure as testaments to skill, vision, and belief. The spheres, like these other enigmatic creations, are at once practical, aesthetic, and mysterious, inviting us to consider the depth of human ingenuity long before the advent of modern tools or global civilization. Ultimately, the stone spheres leave us with a quiet, enduring question. Why were these precise forms so carefully shaped and placed? Do they mark the social, spiritual, or cosmic imagination of their creators? Or do they serve purposes we may never fully comprehend? As they rest in the tropical soil, glinting under the sun, they endure as silent witnesses to human endeavor, waiting for those willing to trace their lines, ponder their meaning, and wonder at the mysteries still hidden in landscapes shaped by hands long vanished. From the rolling fields of Costa Rica, where the stone spheres speak silently of human ingenuity and ritual, our journey now moves northward to the stark, windswept islands of the Russian Arctic, where the icy waters of the Barents Sea lap against rocky outcrops and hidden histories lie etched into stone. On Bolshoi Zayatsky Island, part of the Solovetsky archipelago, there exists a network of enigmatic stone structures that has puzzled archaeologists, historians, and visitors for generations. The Bolshoi Zayatsky labyrinths. Unlike monuments of grandeur or symbols of power, these labyrinths are subtle, understated, yet profoundly compelling. A reminder that mystery often resides in simplicity and pattern. At first glance, the labyrinths appear as low, flat stone alignments, meandering across the island's rocky terrain. Constructed from unworked granite boulders, each labyrinth forms a winding path enclosed by walls only a few stones high, creating patterns that can be fully appreciated only from above. The largest of these labyrinths stretches tens of meters in diameter, its corridors twisting and turning in ways that evoke thought, reflection, and perhaps ritual. To walk among the stones is to sense a deliberate intention, a rhythm and order imposed upon the otherwise irregular landscape of the island. Yet the purpose of that design remains elusive. Radiocarbon dating and archaeological study suggest that these labyrinths may have been constructed anywhere from the late Bronze Age to the early Iron Age, roughly 2,500 to 1,500 years ago. Similar labyrinths are found throughout the northern reaches of Europe, including Scandinavia and the Baltic region, indicating a cultural phenomenon that spans geography, yet their exact meaning is shrouded in ambiguity. Were they sites of ritual or meditation, ceremonial spaces designed to channel energy, or paths meant to symbolize a journey, physical, spiritual, or symbolic? Their low horizontal construction leaves little trace of domestic activity, hinting at purposes beyond the practical or everyday. The labyrinth's location amplifies their mystery. Bolshoi Zayatsky Island is small, windswept, and remote, its terrain rugged and inhospitable for sustained settlement. Yet the stones were quarried, transported, and arranged with care, demonstrating a communal effort that required planning, coordination, and a shared vision. Why invest such labor in an island seemingly marginal to daily life? Was the location itself imbued with spiritual significance, its isolation creating a threshold between the mundane world and realms of ritual, belief, or cosmology? And if so, what did the builders hope to achieve through their meticulous arrangement of stones? Scholars have proposed several interpretations. Some suggest the labyrinths were used in fertility rites, healing ceremonies, or initiatory rituals. Others propose that they may have functioned as symbolic pathways, representing the journey of the soul, guiding participants through winding corridors that mimic life's uncertainties or the passage from life to death. Certain labyrinths align with local topographical features or prominent landmarks, hinting at a relationship between the constructed forms and the natural world. Yet, despite these observations, definitive evidence of their function remains scarce, leaving room for speculation without certainty. Beyond ritual, some researchers explore the possibility of astronomical or calendrical purposes. Could the labyrinths have been designed to mark solstices, equinoxes, or other celestial events, serving as primitive observatories or cosmological diagrams? The low profiles of the walls make precise observation difficult, yet their placement on elevated windswept ridges offers unobstructed views of the horizon, inviting questions about human observation of the sky in the far north. Whether symbolic, ritualistic, or practical, the labyrinth's design demonstrates a sophisticated awareness of space, orientation, and environmental context. The labyrinths also raise questions about cultural continuity and transmission. The similarities between labyrinths in the Russian Arctic, Scandinavia, and the Baltic suggest that ideas, practices, or symbols traveled vast distances, carried by seafaring communities or shared cultural networks. What messages or knowledge were encoded in these labyrinths? And how did understanding pass between generations and across regions? The stones themselves offer few clues beyond their deliberate placement, leaving the human intention behind them largely obscured, like a language whose grammar and meaning have been lost to time. For those who wander the labyrinths today, the experience is quietly meditative. The corridors wind and twist, inviting reflection and observation, and as the Arctic wind sweeps across the island, the stones take on a sense of timelessness. One can imagine the builders arranging each boulder with care, walking the paths as part of ceremonial or contemplative practice, or marking a sacred geography that linked humans to land, sea, and sky. The labyrinths evoke a connection across centuries, a conversation between those who shaped the stones and those who encounter them now, even if the words of that dialogue remain unknown. In contemplating the Bolshoi Zayatsky labyrinths, A theme emerges that resonates with discoveries across the globe. From the Tartaria amulets in Romania to the stone spheres of Costa Rica, from the submerged terraces of Yonaguni to geometric lines across Bolivia's Altiplano, humanity has repeatedly left traces that blend artistry, ritual, and purpose. The labyrinths remind us that intention can be subtle, power can be expressed through minimal intervention, and mystery can endure in the quietest of forms. Their low walls and winding paths invite interpretation while resisting definitive explanation. A paradox that is both frustrating and profoundly compelling. Ultimately, the Bolshoi-Zayatsky labyrinths leave a lingering, contemplative question. Why were these stones arranged in such patterns, and what did they mean to those who constructed them? Were the labyrinths designed to guide the living, honor the dead, or chart the heavens? Or did they serve purposes that are now lost to history, their meaning buried in the silence of wind and stone? As the Arctic air swirls across the ridges and waves crash along distant shores, the labyrinths endure as quiet witnesses to human creativity, ritual, and mystery, inviting us to pause, reflect, and wonder at the stories that may still lie hidden within the stones. From the winding stone corridors of Bolshoi-Zayatsky, where labyrinths silently trace human intention across the windswept Arctic, our journey now turns to the rolling chalk hills of southern England. Here, on the escarpments of Oxfordshire, lies a figure both monumental and mysterious, the Uffington White Horse. Carved into the hillside, this stylized equine silhouette stretches over 100 meters from nose to tail, its clean lines and abstract form visible from miles away, tracing the contours of the land with an elegance that seems almost timeless. The first encounter with the White Horse is striking. Unlike sculpted statues or freestanding monuments, this geoglyph is part of the earth itself, a contrast of chalk and grass that glows white under the sun and shimmers in winter frost. Viewed from the valley below, it appears vast but abstract. From the air, its shape is precise, deliberate, and unmistakably symbolic. It is both an artwork and a landmark, its creation requiring coordination, planning, and a profound understanding of scale and perspective. How and why did the people who carved it conceive such an enduring form? Archaeological dating places the Uffington White Horse in the late Bronze Age or early Iron Age, around 3,000 years ago. This makes it older than Stonehenge as we know it today, and yet its purpose remains elusive. Excavations in the surrounding area have revealed traces of settlements, ritual enclosures, and burial mounds, suggesting that the figure occupied a landscape steeped in ceremony and memory. Some researchers posit that the horse symbolized tribal identity, religious devotion, or a territorial marker, visible from afar to travelers crossing the hills. Others see it as a representation of a deity, an emblem of fertility, or a mythic horse associated with the solar cycle. The shape itself is enigmatic. Unlike realistic depictions of horses, the Uffington White Horse is stylized, with a long, angular head, flowing neck, and tapered body. Its abstraction conveys energy, movement, and perhaps an otherworldly quality, hinting at symbolic meaning rather than literal representation. Some speculate that its design was deliberately simplified to enhance visibility from a distance or from the sky, a remarkable consideration for a society without aerial perspective, but one attuned to the human eye across sweeping landscapes. What was the visual language the creators hoped to communicate, and to whom was it addressed? Mainstream interpretations focus on ritual and social function. The horse may have been part of seasonal ceremonies, aligned with hilltop enclosures or nearby mounds, marking cycles of life, death, and fertility. It may have served as a focal point for community gatherings, signaling shared identity or reverence for the land. Yet despite these plausible theories, no inscriptions, artifacts, or definitive records explain its meaning, leaving the figure open to conjecture. Its abstract form challenges interpretation, inviting viewers to project their own understanding onto its clean, chalky lines. The geoglyph's construction is itself a testament to human ingenuity. Carved by removing turf to expose chalk beneath, the white horse requires regular maintenance to preserve its form against erosion, vegetation growth, and weather. This ongoing care suggests communal participation over generations, an investment of labor that underscores the figure's cultural significance. The landscape, the rock, and the human hand are inseparable here. The artwork exists not as an isolated object, but as an integration of environment, society, and ritual practice. How many hands, over how many generations, sustained this shape, and what devotion compelled such effort? Speculative theories naturally arise. Some researchers have suggested astronomical alignments, noting that the horse appears in relation to the sun's path and nearby hilltop structures. Others propose that the figure may serve as a spiritual conduit, a symbol guiding souls between the living and the sacred landscape, or as a representation of mythic or chthonic powers associated with horses in European folklore. Though evidence remains circumstantial, the Uffington white horse inspires questions about cognition, symbolism, and the ways ancient societies encoded meaning in the landscape itself. For visitors today, walking the ridge above Uffington, the white horse evokes a sense of quiet awe. Its white lines contrast sharply with green pastures, stretching across time as much as across the hills. To stand near it is to sense the hands that cut into the turf, the eyes that envisioned its form, and the community that sustained it. It is a reminder that human creativity, devotion, and symbolic expression often leave traces that endure far beyond individual lifetimes. In contemplating the Uffington white horse, a theme emerges familiar from our exploration of other enigmatic sites. From the Arctic labyrinths of Bolshoi-Zayatsky to the polished spheres of Costa Rica, from submerged terraces in Yonaguni to the earliest symbolic marks of Tartaria, humanity has repeatedly imposed meaning upon the landscape, blending artistry, ritual, and technical skill. The white horse is at once tangible and elusive, visible and enigmatic, embodying the tension between what can be observed and what remains hidden in history, memory, and imagination. Ultimately, the Uffington white horse leaves a lingering question. Who conceived this vast and abstract form, and what message did it intend to convey? Was it a symbol of identity, a spiritual marker, a guide for ritual, or something beyond the comprehension of modern observers? As the sun casts shadows along the chalky lines and wind sweeps across the rolling hills, the horse endures as a silent testament to human creativity, a reminder that even the simplest gestures in the landscape can carry profound meaning across millennia, waiting for those willing to trace its lines and ponder its mysteries. From the chalk hills of Oxfordshire, where the Uffington white horse traces human artistry across millennia, our journey now returns to the high plains of South America, where the Altiplano stretches under an expansive sky, and the remnants of ancient civilizations lie scattered across the rugged landscape. Near Lake Titicaca, in Bolivia's remote highlands, a small yet extraordinary artifact rests quietly in museums and private collections, its significance quietly defying understanding: the Fuente Magna Bowl. This unassuming ceramic vessel, no larger than a hand, carries inscriptions that have sparked intense debate, bridging continents, languages, and epochs in a single enigmatic object. The first encounter with the Fuente Magna Bowl is deceptively simple. Its surface is finely polished, its shape elegant and functional, resembling a ceremonial or utilitarian vessel. Yet it is the inscriptions along its rim that immediately command attention. The symbols are unlike the indigenous scripts known to the region, bearing striking resemblance to early Sumerian cuneiform, a writing system from Mesopotamia thousands of kilometers and centuries away. The juxtaposition is startling. A bowl from the Andean highlands, with markings that appear to echo one of the earliest civilizations of the Old World. How did such a convergence occur, and what does it suggest about human movement, cultural exchange, or independent invention? Archaeologists have debated the bowl's provenance since its discovery in the 1950s. While it surfaced near ancient Tiwanaku sites, its exact context remains uncertain, leaving questions about its origin unresolved. The vessel itself is made from local clay, fired and polished with skill, demonstrating the technical mastery of Andean artisans. But the inscriptions remain the source of fascination and controversy. Are they authentic, a rare example of transoceanic contact, or an imitation inspired by knowledge of foreign scripts? Mainstream scholarship generally urges caution, emphasizing that the bowl's context is poorly documented and that conclusive evidence of pre-Columbian transoceanic contact remains elusive. Yet the precision and form of the inscriptions demand scrutiny. Those who have studied the Fuente Magna bowl note that the characters align closely with early cuneiform signs, each incision deliberate, precise, and evenly spaced. Could these markings represent an early attempt to record information in writing, an artifact of cross-cultural influence, or perhaps a symbolic gesture whose meaning was local yet inspired by foreign motifs? The bowl challenges conventional timelines of human communication, suggesting either contact between distant civilizations long before the known historical record, or a remarkable case of parallel development, two societies arriving at similar symbolic systems independently. Either possibility raises profound questions about the movement of ideas, trade, and knowledge in the ancient world. The bowl also invites reflection on the interplay of utility and symbolism. Its shape is practical, capable of holding food, water, or ritual substances, yet the care with which the inscriptions are rendered elevates it beyond the purely functional. Was the vessel a ceremonial object, a sacred container used in offerings or rituals? Or was it a record-keeping tool, perhaps encoding names, events, or mystical knowledge? Its dual nature, as both container and canvas, illustrates a broader human tendency to imbue everyday objects with symbolic or spiritual meaning, blurring the line between art, ritual, and information. Speculative interpretations abound. Some researchers suggest that the bowl points to early transoceanic contact between Old and New World civilizations, raising the possibility that sailors, traders, or explorers carried ideas across vast distances long before recorded history. Others propose that it represents a unique Andean expression inspired by abstract symbols, converging independently upon forms resembling cuneiform. While definitive evidence for either theory remains elusive, the bowl's existence alone is a testament to the human desire to communicate, encode, and preserve meaning. For those who study the Fuente Magna bowl today, the experience is both tantalizing and frustrating. The object is tangible, its surface smooth beneath the fingers, yet its meaning is opaque, hovering between possibility and uncertainty. Each symbol invites interpretation, each line hints at stories untold, and each curve of the vessel whispers of hands that shaped, inscribed, and carried it across centuries. It is a reminder that the past often speaks in fragments, leaving us to infer intention, context, and significance from what remains. In contemplating the Fuente Magna bowl, a pattern emerges that resonates with other enigmatic discoveries across the globe. From the monumental geoglyphs of Uffington to the stone spheres of Costa Rica, from the submerged terraces of Yonaguni to the incised amulets of Tartaria, humanity has repeatedly left traces that challenge conventional understanding, blending artistry, ritual, and technical skill in ways that endure yet resist full explanation. The bowl exemplifies this impulse. Small, portable, and yet capable of sparking debate, wonder, and reflection across continents and millennia. Ultimately, the Fuente Magna bowl leaves a quiet, persistent question. Who inscribed these symbols, and why? Were they the result of ancient cross-cultural contact, a symbolic language lost to history, or an independent invention that converged by coincidence upon forms familiar to distant civilizations? As the highland winds sweep across Lake Titicaca and the Andes rise in silent grandeur, the bowl endures as a fragile yet compelling witness to human curiosity, ingenuity, and mystery. Its smooth surface and precise markings invite us to ponder not only the artifact itself, but also the untold networks of knowledge, travel, and cultural expression that may lie hidden, waiting for those patient enough to seek them out. From the high plains of Bolivia, where the Fuente Magna Bowl challenges our understanding of human communication and cultural exchange, our journey now returns to the gentle rolling hills of southern England, where the earth itself has been shaped into one of the most enigmatic monuments of prehistoric Europe, Silbury Hill. Rising nearly 40 meters above the surrounding landscape of the Marlborough Downs, this massive mound dominates the horizon, its sheer scale and precision captivating the imagination. Unlike the Uffington White Horse, which traces form across the chalk, Silbury Hill is an object of volume, weight, and monumental labor, a testament to human determination and mystery carved into the very soil. At first sight, Silbury Hill is deceptively simple. From a distance, it resembles a natural rise, a feature of the landscape shaped by millennia of wind and weather. Yet closer inspection reveals an astonishing work of prehistoric engineering. Layers of chalk, clay, and turf arranged with care. Built not as a dwelling or fortification, but as a singular, isolated mound. Its sheer size, one of the largest man-made prehistoric structures in Europe, raises immediate questions. Why invest such labor in creating a mound that appears, on the surface, to serve no practical function? Who commanded its construction, and what motivated communities to transport hundreds of thousands of tons of earth without the aid of modern tools or beasts of burden? Archaeologists date Silbury Hill to around 2400 to 2300 BCE, contemporaneous with the late Neolithic period, placing it in a landscape rich with ritual and social activity. Nearby Avebury and West Kennet contain stone circles, burial mounds, and other monumental structures, suggesting that Silbury Hill was part of a broader cultural and ceremonial network. Yet unlike these other sites, it offers few clues as to its function. Excavations have revealed evidence of timber structures, chalk deposits, and intricate layers within the mound, but no definitive burials, inscriptions, or artifacts that explain its purpose. Was it a ceremonial platform, a territorial marker, or a symbolic representation of cosmology? The silence of the mound is both compelling and confounding. The construction itself is a marvel. Analyses show that the builders carefully selected and arranged materials, creating internal layers that provided stability, drainage, and perhaps ritual significance. The mound was not the product of accidental accumulation, but of deliberate design, reflecting planning, social organization, and long-term communal effort. How did a prehistoric society coordinate such a labor-intensive project, and what shared vision or belief inspired it? The sheer scale of Silbury Hill suggests a cultural imperative powerful enough to motivate generations of workers, yet the precise meaning of that imperative remains shrouded in mystery. Speculation about the mound's purpose is as varied as it is tantalizing. Some scholars propose ritual or ceremonial functions, suggesting that the mound served as a sacred site for gatherings, offerings, or astronomical observations. Others suggest symbolic significance. Silbury Hill may have represented a cosmological axis, a point of connection between earth and sky, life and death, or human and divine. Certain alignments with nearby monuments hint at astronomical or calendrical intent, though the evidence is circumstantial. Could the mound have served multiple purposes, both practical and symbolic, as a stage for ritual and a marker of time, community, or cosmology? Further intrigue arises from the internal structure. Archaeologists have discovered complex layering of chalk, clay, and turf, sometimes with hollow spaces or pits that suggest intentional design rather than purely functional construction. Could these layers have been used to store ritual objects, facilitate ceremonies, or channel spiritual energies? Or do they represent engineering solutions to preserve the mound's stability over centuries? The intersection of technical skill and possible ritual intention underscores a recurring theme in ancient monumental construction. Human ingenuity often serves both material and symbolic ends simultaneously. Walking the mound today, one is struck by the experience of scale, effort, and silence. Silbury Hill dominates the surrounding landscape, its gentle slopes inviting both physical and mental ascent. Standing at the summit, one can survey the rolling downs, stone circles, and distant horizons, sensing the connectivity of place and purpose. It is a quiet testament to human labor, vision, and mystery, a physical manifestation of questions that endure across millennia. What did the builders hope to convey or achieve? How did they organize and motivate the labor necessary to shape such a vast volume of earth? And most profoundly, what did Silbury Hill mean to the people who consecrated their lives to its creation? In contemplating Silbury Hill, a pattern emerges familiar from our exploration of other enigmatic discoveries. From the Fuente Magna Bowl's inscriptions in Bolivia to the Uffington White Horse's abstract elegance, from labyrinths in the Arctic to spheres in Costa Rica, humans have repeatedly imposed form, symbolism, and intention upon the landscape, blending technical skill with ritual or aesthetic purpose. Silbury Hill exemplifies this impulse, a monumental work whose meaning is not immediately apparent, yet whose presence speaks volumes about communal effort, cultural vision, and the enduring human desire to shape the world. Ultimately, Silbury Hill leaves us with an open, contemplative question. Why was this immense mound built? And what knowledge, belief, or memory did it preserve for the communities of its time? Was it an altar, a marker, a cosmological model, or something that eludes even our most careful interpretation? As the winds sweep across the Marlborough Downs and the sunlight glances over its chalky slopes, the mound endures, silent yet commanding, inviting us to consider the ingenuity, devotion, and mystery of those who came long before us, and to wonder what secrets, still hidden beneath its layers, may yet be revealed. From the monumental mound of Silbury Hill, which rises silently over the Marlborough Downs, where earth and human effort intertwine in a landscape of mystery, our journey now turns northward to the lowlands and fjords of Denmark. Here, amidst the rich soils and shallow wetlands of Zealand, a remarkable artifact emerged from the peat. A bronze figure, delicate yet electrifying in its symbolism, known today as the Trundholm Sun Chariot. Though small in size, the chariot's cultural and conceptual resonance stretches across time, inviting us to contemplate the rhythms of celestial observation, ritual, and myth in Bronze Age Europe. At first glance, the Sun Chariot is deceptively simple. Crafted around 1400 BCE, it depicts a horse pulling a disc, a gilded sun, mounted upon a wheeled platform. The disc itself is adorned with radiant gold leaf on one side, capturing light and fire in a visual echo of the sun. The craftsmanship is exquisite. The bronze horse, slender and elegant, carries a sense of energy, motion, and purpose. Yet, the object is far more than decoration. It is a symbolic and technological marvel, a miniature vehicle through which Bronze Age humans articulated their understanding of the cosmos. How did its creators conceive of such an object, and what knowledge, belief, or ritual prompted its design? Discovered in a peat bog near Trundholm in the late 19th century, the Sun Chariot immediately fascinated archaeologists. Bog conditions preserved the bronze and gilded surface, allowing for close study of its form and detail. Unlike everyday artifacts, this chariot was not utilitarian. Its wheels would scarcely bear the weight of the horse and sun disk in practical use. Instead, it likely served a ceremonial or symbolic function, a tangible expression of the sun's journey across the sky, a concept that pervaded the mythologies and cosmologies of Northern Europe during the Bronze Age. Yet, despite extensive study, its precise role remains speculative, shrouded in mystery. Mainstream interpretations suggest that the sun chariot represents the solar deity in motion, a visual metaphor for the sun's daily journey from east to west. The gilded side may have been intended to catch sunlight, literally reflecting the sun's power and presence. Some researchers propose that the chariot could have been part of ritual practices aligned with the solar cycle, marking solstices or seasonal transitions critical to agrarian societies. Others interpret the imagery as allegorical, representing the eternal rhythm of day and night, light and darkness, life and death. In all cases, the object demonstrates a sophisticated abstraction. The horse becomes a cosmic agent, the sun a moving, animate force, and human imagination a bridge between observation and meaning. Yet, the sun chariot also provokes more speculative questions. Could it reflect astronomical knowledge, a form of early mechanistic thinking, or even a model for ceremonial movement? Did the gilded disc inspire awe in its viewers as it caught the light of the rising sun, reinforcing the relationship between celestial observation and ritual practice? Some have noted that the disc's reverse side, unadorned, may symbolize night, suggesting a duality between day and darkness captured in a single object. Was this duality a conscious reflection of Bronze Age cosmology, or simply artistic convention? The construction of the chariot further underscores its mystery. The bronze horse and platform were carefully cast and joined, a technical achievement requiring knowledge of metallurgy, design, and mobility. The gilded disc demonstrates an understanding of material properties, adhesion, and visual impact. Even in miniature, the object conveys a sense of motion and intentionality, a model of cosmic order rendered in human hands. Its survival in peat bogs suggests it may have been deliberately deposited, perhaps as an offering or votive gift, a gesture of devotion to the sun or to forces beyond human comprehension. For modern viewers, the sun chariot inspires a quiet awe. One can imagine Bronze Age eyes catching the shimmer of sunlight on the gilded disc, the horse appearing to pull the sun across the land, a metaphor made tangible. It represents a union of observation, artistry, and belief, a portable testament to humanity's impulse to understand the universe, embody abstract ideas, and encode meaning in objects that endure. The chariot challenges assumptions about the cognitive and spiritual sophistication of prehistoric societies, revealing a people attuned to celestial rhythms, symbolism, and ritual practice. In contemplating the Trundholm sun chariot, a pattern emerges familiar from our journey through enigmatic archaeological discoveries. From Silbury Hill's monumental earthwork to the Fuente Magna Bowl's inscriptions, from labyrinths in the Arctic to the White Horse of Uffington, humans have repeatedly created objects and landscapes that transcend mere functionality, embodying knowledge, belief, and imagination. The sun chariot exemplifies this impulse. Small, intricate, yet expansive in its conceptual reach, bridging art, ritual, and observation in a tangible form. Ultimately, the sun chariot leaves us with a contemplative question. What knowledge, faith, or experience compelled its creation, and how was it understood by those who beheld it? Did it serve as a guide, a ritual object, or a symbolic instrument of cosmic order? Or did it carry meanings now irretrievably lost, a private and sacred language of Bronze Age Europe? As sunlight glints upon its gilded surface, the chariot endures as a silent witness to human curiosity, ingenuity, and reverence, inviting us to consider the mysteries encoded in ancient objects and the insights still waiting to emerge from hands and minds long vanished beneath the sweep of time. From the gilded sun of Bronze Age Denmark, embodied in the Trundholm sun chariot, our exploration now moves across the Atlantic to the quiet, wooded shores of New Hampshire in the northeastern United States. Here lies Lake Winnipesaukee, a vast expanse of water glimmering under summer sun, framed by forested hills and scattered islands. Beneath its placid surface, or occasionally revealed along its shores, lies a small, unassuming artifact that has captured the imagination of locals and scholars alike: the Lake Winnipesaukee Mystery Stone. At first glance, the stone appears ordinary, a slab of granite, roughly the size of a man's hand, its surface weathered by time and water. Yet what distinguishes it are the carvings etched into its face, intricate patterns, symbols, and geometric lines that suggest deliberate human workmanship. Some interpret the designs as pictographs, while others see proto-writing, ritualistic markings, or astronomical symbols. The immediate reaction is one of quiet wonder. How did this stone come to bear such precise carvings, and what knowledge or intent guided its creation? The stone was first reported in the 19th century, discovered along the shoreline by individuals who noted its unusual incisions. Scholars have since debated its origin extensively. Some suggest it may be an artifact of Native American origin, perhaps a ceremonial object, a map, or a record of events. Others point to the possibility of Norse influence, drawing parallels with early Scandinavian carvings in Europe, though such claims remain speculative and controversial. Regardless of origin, the stone's presence in this remote region raises compelling questions about human activity and symbolism in pre-contact North America. Analysis of the carvings reveals a meticulous attention to form. Lines intersect at precise angles, circles and arcs suggest observation or alignment, and certain patterns evoke celestial or calendrical imagery. Could the stone have been used as a teaching tool, a way of encoding knowledge, or a guide to the stars, seasons, or local geography? Perhaps it served as a ritual object, intended for use in spiritual or communal practices. Yet the lack of contextual artifacts or clear documentation renders definitive answers elusive, leaving the stone suspended between interpretation and mystery. Speculation naturally emerges from the enigmatic designs. Some researchers note similarities with petroglyphs found elsewhere in North America, though no exact parallels have been identified, suggesting either a unique local tradition or an isolated cultural innovation. Others explore more controversial possibilities, proposing that the stone may hint at early transatlantic contact, though evidence remains circumstantial at best. Could this stone represent a convergence of knowledge, an independent symbolic system, or the record of a culture whose traces are now mostly lost to time? The stone's context adds to its intrigue. Winnipesaukee is dotted with islands, rocky outcrops, and shallow coves, a landscape that may have been spiritually or culturally significant to the indigenous peoples who once inhabited the area. The lake itself is central to local ecosystems, travel routes, and seasonal practices, suggesting that any artifact deposited here would have been chosen deliberately. Was the stone placed intentionally as a marker, an offering, or a symbolic connection between land and water, people and spirit? Or was it simply a utilitarian object later imbued with cultural meaning? The ambiguity fuels curiosity, inviting viewers to consider multiple possibilities simultaneously. For modern observers, the Mystery Stone offers a tactile link to the past. Holding or examining it, one can imagine hands from centuries or even millennia ago carefully incising each line, crafting shapes that carried meaning, intent, and perhaps reverence. The stone is simultaneously intimate and monumental, small in size, yet vast in the conceptual worlds it evokes. Its precision and form suggest a sophisticated understanding of geometry, symbolism, and perhaps astronomy, highlighting an intelligence and creativity often underappreciated in early North American contexts. The Lake Winnipesaukee Mystery Stone resonates with a broader theme found throughout our exploration of enigmatic artifacts and structures. From the Sun Chariot of Trundholm to Silbury Hill, from the Fuente Magna Bowl in Bolivia to the Uffington White Horse in England, humans have repeatedly embedded meaning into stone, earth, and crafted objects, leaving legacies that endure yet resist full interpretation. These objects remind us that knowledge and ritual can be encoded in subtle, enduring ways, often requiring careful observation, imagination, and patience to perceive. Ultimately, the Mystery Stone leaves a lingering question. Who created it and for what purpose? Was it a map, a calendar, a spiritual talisman, or an artistic expression? Did its creators intend to communicate something to future generations, or was its meaning immediate, understood only in the context of its own time? As the waters of Lake Winnipesaukee reflect sunlight across the forested hills, the stone endures as a silent witness, inviting contemplation, inquiry, and wonder. It stands as a testament to the human desire to leave traces, encode meaning, and engage with the world symbolically, reminding us that some stories of the past remain tantalizingly out of reach, waiting for those who seek them to ponder what mysteries may still lie beneath surface calm. From the quiet waters of Lake Winnipesaukee, where a small carved stone hints at the ingenuity and symbolic complexity of early North American inhabitants, our journey now travels thousands of miles across the Pacific Ocean to the tropical expanse of Micronesia. Here, scattered across the calm seas near the island of Pohnpei, lie the ruins of Nan Madol, a city of stone, water, and enigma built atop a lagoon and consisting of nearly 100 artificial islets separated by canals. The very name, Nan Madol, which some interpret as spaces between, hints at the intricate interplay of land, water, and human endeavor that defines this extraordinary site. The first impression of Nan Madol is striking. From a distance, the jagged silhouettes of basalt columns rise from the water, forming walls, terraces, and platforms that seem almost otherworldly. The city stretches across more than 400 hectares, yet its construction defies simple explanation. Massive basalt logs, some weighing several tons, were quarried, transported, and stacked with remarkable precision to create towering walls and ceremonial structures. How did the builders manage this feat on a remote island with limited technology? What motivated the creation of a city seemingly suspended between land and sea, earth and sky? Dating suggests that Nan Madol was constructed between 1200 and 1600 CE, during the height of the Saudeleur dynasty, which ruled Pohnpei with centralized authority. Local legends describe the city as the domain of semi-divine rulers, whose power and influence extended across the island and perhaps beyond. Archaeological studies confirm that the site was not only residential but also ceremonial. Temples, tombs, and palaces indicate a society with hierarchical governance and complex ritual practice. Yet, despite extensive study, many questions remain unanswered. Why was this city built on artificial islets, and how were the enormous stones moved across water and stacked into structures that have endured centuries of tropical storms and shifting tides? The construction techniques at Nan Madol remain a subject of fascination and debate. The basalt columns are arranged with remarkable stability, forming interlocking walls without the use of mortar. Some researchers speculate that the stones were transported using a combination of rafts, rollers, and levers, yet no detailed records or remains of such methods have been found. Others suggest more ingenious or even lost techniques, proposing that the builders may have had knowledge of buoyancy, counterweights, or communal labor strategies now forgotten. Each possibility underscores the extraordinary technical skill and organizational capacity required to realize a vision of such scale. The layout of Nan Madol adds another layer of mystery. The canals, artificial islets, and concentric structures suggest careful planning, potentially guided by cosmological or social principles. Some scholars propose that the city's orientation aligns with celestial events, reinforcing the role of ritual and observation in its design. Others interpret the arrangement as a reflection of political hierarchy, separating rulers from commoners, priests from warriors, and the sacred from the mundane. Whatever the guiding principles, the city's spatial complexity hints at a sophisticated understanding of engineering, social order, and symbolic representation. Speculative interpretations extend even further. Could Nan Madol represent an experiment in urban planning, an isolated case of hydraulic architecture in the Pacific, or a manifestation of spiritual or cosmological vision? Local legends speak of supernatural assistance in transporting the massive stones, and some have suggested the possibility of influences from other maritime cultures. While evidence for external contact remains limited, the sheer scale, precision, and ambition of Nan Madol invite consideration of both practical and symbolic explanations, blending human ingenuity with imagination. For modern visitors and researchers, Nan Madol evokes both awe and contemplation. Walking along its narrow causeways or gazing across the canals, one senses the labor, planning, and communal effort required to construct and maintain such a city. The stones, moss-covered and weathered by centuries, bear silent witness to the lives, rituals, and authority of the people who shaped them. It is a place where human ambition meets natural forces, a city that has endured despite storms, rising tides, and centuries of abandonment. The site of Nan Madol resonates with a pattern familiar from other enigmatic discoveries. Monumental human effort, technical mastery, and symbolic or ritual intent combine to create spaces and objects that challenge conventional understanding. From Silbury Hill's massive earthworks to the Fuente Magna Bowl's cryptic inscriptions, from the Trundholm sun chariot's gilded symbolism to the carved mystery stone of Lake Winnipesaukee, humans have consistently sought to encode knowledge, belief, and social structure into tangible forms that endure across time. Nan Madol exemplifies this impulse in its most ambitious form, a city carved from basalt and water, reflecting both physical ingenuity and conceptual sophistication. Ultimately, Nan Madol leaves us with lingering questions. Who orchestrated the construction of this extraordinary city, and what motivated its unique placement upon the lagoon? Was it a center of political power, a ceremonial hub, or an urban manifestation of cosmological vision? How did its builders achieve such monumental feats with the resources at hand, and what knowledge, technical, ritual, or symbolic, has been lost to time? As the sun sets over Pohnpei and the canals reflect the fading light, the ruins stand as a silent, evocative testament to human creativity and mystery, inviting us to ponder not only the skills of the past, but the secrets that may yet lie hidden beneath the water, waiting for those patient and curious enough to discover them. From the basalt islets and tranquil canals of Nan Madol, where human ingenuity and ritual ambition converge upon water and stone, our journey now moves westward across the Americas to the tropical lowlands of Veracruz and Tabasco in Mexico. Here, nestled within the humid forests and riverine plains of the Gulf Coast, stand some of the most striking and enigmatic monuments of the ancient New World, the Olmec Colossal Heads. These monumental sculptures, each carved from single blocks of basalt, project a sense of presence and authority that has captivated observers for centuries, challenging our understanding of the scale, skill, and symbolism of early Mesoamerican civilizations. The first encounter with an Olmec head is arresting. Towering between 1.5 and 3.5 meters, with broad features, fleshy cheeks, and unmistakably individualistic facial expressions, these stone giants convey a remarkable degree of realism. Each head is crowned with a helmet-like headdress, hinting at warriors, rulers, or ceremonial significance. The artistry is precise. Contours are deliberate, eyes and mouths carefully shaped, and subtle asymmetries suggest individual identity rather than generic representation. Who were these figures intended to depict, and why were such immense resources devoted to their creation? Archaeologists date the Olmec civilization to roughly 1500 to 400 BCE, making these heads among the earliest monumental sculptures in the Americas. They are typically found at major ceremonial centers, such as San Lorenzo, La Venta, and Tres Zapotes, often positioned along plazas or platforms that would have been central to civic and ritual life. The choice of basalt, sometimes transported over 50 kilometers from distant quarries, demonstrates an extraordinary logistical and engineering effort. How did the Olmecs move these multi-ton stones through dense jungle and across rivers without wheeled vehicles or draft animals? What social organization, knowledge, and labor were required to accomplish this feat? The faces themselves offer tantalizing insight, yet provoke even deeper questions. Some scholars interpret the heads as portraits of individual rulers, capturing distinct physiognomies to commemorate power, lineage, or divine authority. Others suggest they may represent deities or mythical figures, blending human and supernatural attributes. The helmet-like headdresses could indicate involvement in ritual combat, athletic activity, or ceremonial roles, though the precise symbolism remains elusive. The combination of individuality, monumentality, and labor-intensive creation reflects a civilization capable of both artistic sophistication and complex social coordination. Beyond their technical and artistic achievements, the Olmec heads inspire broader speculation. Some researchers have proposed astronomical or cosmological alignments, suggesting that the placement of heads within ceremonial centers may have corresponded with solar, lunar, or planetary cycles. Others have noted potential connections with distant cultural practices or shared iconography across Mesoamerica, raising questions about the diffusion of ideas, trade, and ritual traditions. Could these colossal faces be part of a larger system of knowledge, memory, or authority, designed to project power both spatially and symbolically? Transporting the basalt was itself an extraordinary challenge. There is evidence that the Olmecs used rivers, rafts, rollers, and coordinated labor to move stones weighing up to 40 tons. This implies sophisticated planning, resource management, and a social structure capable of mobilizing large groups for sustained projects. In a landscape dense with jungle and prone to flooding, the accomplishment is staggering, and yet the exact methods remain speculative. Did ritual, spiritual motivation, or political necessity drive this immense effort? Or was it a combination, where devotion, fear, and community identity converged in the labor of shaping stone? For modern observers, the colossal heads exude a quiet, imposing presence. Standing before one, the sheer scale and skill become tangible. The weight of history presses down, and the subtle nuances of facial expression convey humanity, authority, and perhaps even personality. They are objects that defy simple categorization, simultaneously art, monument, political statement, and ritual object. Their survival through centuries of tropical weather, colonization, and neglect underscores both their physical resilience and the enduring power of human intention. The Olmec heads resonate with a pattern familiar from other enigmatic sites. Monumental effort, technical mastery, and symbolic or ritual significance combined to create enduring artifacts that challenge conventional understanding. From the Sun Chariot of Denmark to Silbury Hill in England, from the Fuente Magna Bowl in Bolivia to Nan Madol in Micronesia, humans have repeatedly left traces that blend the functional, symbolic, and aesthetic in ways that endure yet resist full interpretation. The Olmec heads exemplify this impulse at a colossal scale. Physical labor, artistic skill, and social organization embedded in stone, projecting human intention across time and space. Ultimately, the Olmec colossal heads leave us with a quiet, persistent question. Who were these figures, and what did they signify to the people who created them? Were they rulers, deities, mythic ancestors, or symbolic embodiments of power and identity? How did the Olmecs conceive, organize, and execute such monumental works, and what knowledge or belief has been lost to time? As the sun filters through the humid canopy and reflects upon the basalt, the heads endure, silent, commanding, and inscrutable, inviting us to reflect on the ingenuity, ambition, and mystery of the civilizations that came before us, and to wonder what other secrets of human history still lie hidden, waiting to be uncovered. From the towering basalt visages of the Olmec colossal heads, where the power, artistry, and enigmatic presence of an ancient Mesoamerican civilization are etched into stone, our journey now moves southward along the spine of the Andes to the highlands of Peru. Nestled near Lake Titicaca, amid the windswept altiplano and rugged peaks that have inspired myth and legend for millennia, stands a single imposing stone structure that has captivated explorers, archaeologists, and local inhabitants alike: the Gate of the Gods, or Puerta de Hayu Marca. At first glance, the gate is unassuming, appearing as a massive monolith rising from the earth, but its form quickly reveals extraordinary precision. Carved from granite, the structure forms a perfect doorway, with smooth, angular edges that seem almost unnaturally exact for a civilization working with ancient tools. The stone bears linear grooves, symmetrical surfaces, and a sense of proportion that suggests deliberate design. Its scale is impressive yet understated, evoking a solemn majesty that is amplified by the surrounding landscape. The sun rises behind distant peaks, casting shadows that dance across the surface, and the wind whistles through the open doorway, lending an almost auditory sense of presence. The gate is believed to date from the Tiwanaku culture, flourishing between 400 and 1000 CE, though some local legends claim it is far older, remnants of a civilization lost to history. Archaeologists classify the site within the broader context of Andean ceremonial and architectural traditions, noting parallels with Tiwanaku stonework elsewhere. Yet, unlike the precisely engineered gateways and monoliths at sites such as Puma Punku, the Gate of the Gods possesses a singular aura of mystery. Its purpose is unclear. Was it purely ceremonial, a symbolic threshold between realms, or something more esoteric, a marker aligned with cosmic forces or astronomical cycles? Local lore and myth have imbued the structure with a profound spiritual significance. Among the Aymara and Quechua communities, it is said that the gate once functioned as a portal through which deities descended, or through which humans could access hidden knowledge. Some legends claim that those who pass through its threshold will be granted insight or divine revelation, while others speak of a cavern hidden beneath the stones, containing treasures or knowledge from a forgotten age. The persistence of such stories across generations underscores the gate's cultural resonance, even as scientific study has yet to verify extraordinary claims. Mainstream scholarship emphasizes the architectural skill of the Tiwanaku culture, noting that the precision of the stone cutting, the alignment of the blocks, and the durability of construction reflect a sophisticated understanding of geometry and material properties. Some researchers have proposed practical purposes for the gate: a ceremonial entrance, a marker of territorial or religious significance, or a structural component integrated with other sacred sites. Yet these explanations do not fully account for the sense of otherworldliness the site conveys, nor the remarkable accuracy with which the stones have endured centuries of exposure to the elements. Speculative interpretations add another layer of intrigue. Certain observers have suggested that the gate may function as a resonance device, amplifying sound or vibration in ways that were meaningful to its creators. Others have noted its potential alignment with solstices or lunar cycles, hinting at an astronomical or calendrical function. Some enthusiasts even propose that the gate represents a literal or metaphorical portal, a threshold in which cosmic, spiritual, or metaphysical forces converge. While these theories remain unproven, they highlight the enduring allure of the site, where precision, scale, and context inspire questions that extend beyond conventional archaeology. The stone itself is remarkable. Granite, quarried and transported across difficult terrain, would have required immense effort to shape and position. The smoothness of the surfaces, the sharpness of the angles, and the alignment with the natural landscape suggest not only technical skill, but also a sophisticated aesthetic sensibility. Was this monument designed to awe, to delineate sacred space, or to encode knowledge in stone for future generations? Or did it serve multiple purposes, both practical and symbolic, blending ritual, cosmology, and artistry in a single construct? Walking through the gate today, one is struck by the interplay of environment, scale, and silence. The surrounding plains and distant peaks create a dramatic backdrop, yet the structure itself invites introspection. Its presence evokes questions about human ambition, the transmission of knowledge, and the ways in which ancient societies sought to connect earth and sky, humanity and divinity. Like the Olmec heads or the monumental earthworks of Silbury Hill, the Gate of the Gods embodies a union of technical mastery, cultural intent, and mystery, allowing modern observers to glimpse a past where the material and symbolic were inseparably intertwined. Ultimately, the Gate of the Gods challenges us to reflect on the boundaries of human knowledge. Who carved this precise doorway, and why was it created at this specific site, amidst the peaks and plains of the Peruvian highlands? Did it serve as a literal portal, a ceremonial threshold, or a symbolic statement of cosmic order? How did the builders achieve such precision, and what was lost as cultures shifted, languages changed, and centuries passed? Standing before its granite surface, feeling the weight of history and the presence of legend, one cannot help but wonder, what secrets remain hidden in the shadows, behind the threshold, and in the minds of those who once walked this land, shaping stone into portals that still echo with mystery today? From the windswept highlands of Peru, where the Gate of the Gods stands as a precise and mysterious threshold in granite, our exploration now journeys northward across the Americas to the rugged canyons of the southwestern United States. Carved into the cliffs of what is now Colorado, overlooking the sweeping mesas and deep gorges of the region, lies the remarkable Cliff Palace of Mesa Verde, a monumental settlement that has long captivated historians, archaeologists, and visitors alike. Here, human ingenuity, adaptation, and architectural mastery converge against a backdrop of dramatic natural beauty, inviting us to wonder at the lives, intentions, and secrets of the people who built it. At first sight, the Cliff Palace is breathtaking. Nestled beneath a natural alcove of sandstone cliffs, hundreds of interconnected rooms, towers, and ceremonial spaces form a sprawling complex that seems both sheltered and elevated, simultaneously hidden and commanding. Stone masonry and mortar blend seamlessly with the cliff face, creating dwellings that are durable, functional, and aesthetically harmonious. Narrow passageways wind between living quarters, storage rooms, and kivas, circular subterranean ceremonial chambers, while terraces and ledges overlook the canyon floor below. The sense of scale is staggering. Hundreds of rooms are arranged with careful precision, suggesting meticulous planning and social coordination, yet questions immediately arise. How did the ancestral Puebloans accomplish such complex construction on sheer cliffs, and what inspired this extraordinary settlement pattern? Archaeological study dates the Cliff Palace to the late 12th and early 13th centuries CE, during a period when the ancestral Puebloans flourished in the Four Corners region. The location was carefully chosen. The alcove provides shelter from sun, wind, and rain, while the surrounding landscape offers arable land and access to water sources. Yet, the decision to build so far above the canyon floor, perched on natural ledges accessible only by ladders and narrow footpaths, raises intriguing questions. Was the elevation chosen primarily for defense, for spiritual significance, or for a combination of practical and symbolic reasons? The construction of Cliff Palace demonstrates remarkable architectural and engineering skill. Stones were precisely shaped and fitted together, stabilized with mud mortar, creating walls capable of enduring centuries of seasonal change. Roofs, once constructed from timber and adobe, supported living spaces above while integrating with the natural alcove. The spatial organization of the complex reflects social structure. Residential areas are interwoven with communal spaces and ceremonial kivas, suggesting a society with hierarchy, ritual, and community cohesion. How did the builders coordinate labor, resources, and planning to create such a sophisticated environment atop nearly vertical cliffs? Beyond its technical mastery, the Cliff Palace also conveys a sense of cultural and spiritual depth. Kivas, often subterranean and circular, were likely centers for religious ceremonies, gatherings, and social rites. The integration of these spaces with living quarters suggests a close interweaving of the sacred and the everyday. Some researchers propose that the cliffs themselves were viewed as symbolic thresholds, connecting human life with the cosmos, echoing broader Native American traditions that imbue landscapes with spiritual significance. Could the location and design of Cliff Palace have been guided by celestial observation, seasonal cycles, or cosmological principles? Speculation extends further when considering the mysterious aspects of life in the Cliff Palace. Why were these settlements abandoned by the late 13th century, leaving the cliffs empty and silent? Drought, resource scarcity, social upheaval, or a combination of factors are commonly suggested, yet no definitive explanation exists. The sudden departure has left behind questions about the social, environmental, and spiritual pressures faced by the inhabitants. Could there have been deeper symbolic reasons for retreating from these cliffs, ritualized migration, sacred cycles, or an intentional withdrawal from certain spaces? For modern visitors, the Cliff Palace evokes both awe and reflection. Traversing the narrow passageways, standing in kivas, or gazing down from cliff-edge terraces, one senses the labor, ingenuity, and vision required to create such a settlement. Each stone, carefully shaped and positioned, testifies to human determination, skill, and adaptability. The interplay of shadow and light within the alcove, the echo of wind along the canyon walls, and the remoteness of the location contribute to a profound sense of presence, as if the past is still quietly communicating through the stones themselves. The Cliff Palace resonates with a theme we have encountered throughout our journey. Humans repeatedly transform landscapes and materials to encode meaning, ritual, and social structure. From the precision of the Trundholm sun chariot to the enduring granite threshold of the Gate of the Gods, from the monumental Olmec heads to the sophisticated canals of Non-Medal, civilizations across time and space have sought to leave tangible markers of knowledge, belief, and ingenuity. Mesa Verde exemplifies this pattern in both architectural and symbolic terms, revealing a culture capable of harmonizing function, art, and spirituality in one remarkable cliffside city. Ultimately, the Cliff Palace leaves us with quiet, enduring questions. How did its builders conceive of life perched upon cliffs, and what guided their decisions in construction, layout, and ritual practice? What social, spiritual, or environmental forces motivated the extraordinary effort required to build and sustain this settlement? And what lessons, lost or obscured, might be gleaned from its abandonment centuries ago? As sunlight spills across sandstone walls and the winds sweep through the alcove, The Cliff Palace stands as a silent witness, an enduring monument to human creativity, resilience, and mystery, inviting us to ponder the lives and knowledge of those who shaped these cliffs long before us, and to wonder what secrets might still linger among the stones.